Today we're celebrating a Southern Christmas with 3 festive homes, each bringing its own charm, tradition, and holiday magic to the season. First, we head to Georgia, where a designer has turned her family home into a warm, sparkling wonderland, filling every room with sentimental touches, including a handmade heirloom tree crafted from generations of jewelry. Next, we're visiting a Mississippi home bursting with color and personality, where layered patterns, vibrant holiday decor, and a beautifully styled dining room show how traditional Christmas warmth can meet joyful modern maximalism. And finally, we make our way back to coastal Georgia, where a beloved novelist welcomes us into her storied retreat, sharing the treasured ornaments, memories, and design touches dreamed up alongside a close friend that bring her holiday vision to life. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Today we're in Georgia visiting interior designer Maggie Griffin at her home that's completely transformed into a holiday wonderland. Every room is filled with Christmas cheer and each space is thoughtfully decorated. She's made sure every member of the family has something meaningful, including a Christmas tree created just for her boys.
And here, I love putting up our tree that I would say is a little bit more masculine and woodland. So, this year I've got some of our precious bird ornaments. We've got some brown velvet ribbon that feels very handsome. And I kind of just treat this more of like the boy space.
Maggie has made the holidays even more special by reinventing cherished family heirlooms and turning them into festive magic. She's transformed jewelry passed down from the women in her family into a stunning, sentimental Christmas tree.
It just tells a story of people and women really that I love that came before me and creates this beautiful piece of art.
To watch Maggie's full episode ad-free, where she shows us her incredible pantry and mudroom, scan the QR code on screen or go to homeworthyplus.com to join.
Hi Homeworthy, welcome back. I'm Maggie and welcome to my holiday home here in Gainesville, Georgia. Come on in.
This Christmas, Homeworthy invites you into a season of wonder. Over the next 25 days, we're stepping into homes that sparkle with holiday cheer, where garlands tumble from mantels, ornaments hang like tiny treasures, and every corner comes alive with joy, merriment, and the spirit of the season.
And I don't know how many ornaments are on the tree. Last year I got 1,400 on, and they were made all over the world. There were ones made in America, Poland, Italy, Japan, just a wide variety, and I love them all.
We'll visit homes where traditions are cherished, where beauty is made by hand, and where rituals become memories that last a lifetime.
We make about 400 of these rolls every year, and on Christmas Eve, our family delivers them to certain families within the area, and our kids get to participate in choosing who gets them.
From quiet moments by the fire to happy gatherings around the table, we're celebrating the way the holidays transform our spaces and fill them with magic.
We do quite a dressy table because it's Christmas and it's a party and you want it to feel special, but it's nice to make the table a little bit kind of imperfect, a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I want people to feel at a party in my home as if they're kind of wearing a ball gown but going barefoot. It's that kind of high-low moment, the kind of specialness, but also the coziness of being really comfortable.
So pour something warm, settle in, and join us for Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas, a season-long celebration of holiday magic. To watch Homeworthy's entire Christmas collection ad-free, visit homeworthyplus.com or scan the QR code on screen. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi everyone, I'm Maggie Griffin. Welcome to my home here in Gainesville, Georgia. I grew up loving the holidays because our family celebrates in such a big way. I feel like it was such an exciting time of year growing up as a child, with my mom's house looking so beautiful, my grandmother's houses being decorated, and just the sort of endless fun of having friends and family there in our houses, over the years. We still carry on those traditions. We still get together with our extended family during the month of December on my husband's side and my family too, of course. And then we do our own traditions here with our 3 boys. We have started, some of the things that we like to do as a family. And it's just been so much fun to remember what we used to do as kids, but also create some new traditions for our family. I remember as a kid being able to go to the adult Christmas party. And what I mean by that is my brother and I, who is a year younger than me, we were the oldest grandchildren. And my grandparents entertained and had this beautiful, fancy Christmas party. And so they would allow us to come. And of course, we would go to bed before the party was over. But just the excitement of the event and the friends and the family that were there, that they were entertaining, it was just a really special thing for us to see. And now, as an interior designer and also someone who loves to entertain, I often think about those parties and what all, the love and care and time that my grandmother put into those events. I was just thinking the other day about, the music that she had playing and the food that she served and even what she wore and just how special it was. And I do think that as someone who also loves to entertain, that's a way that I show love. And that's just a really fun memory to think about, in my early childhood days. So welcome to our study. This room in our home is our cozy TV spot where we can kind of wind down at the end of the day, especially after we put my 3-year-old to bed at night. It's a place where my husband and I and the 2 older boys, we can kind of curl up and watch a movie. And it's just one of my favorite places to decorate for the holidays because it is a little bit smaller space, but it's also in a kind of a moodier tone too. So in here, I love putting up our tree that I would say is a little bit more masculine and woodland. So, this year I've got some of our precious, our bird ornaments. We've got some brown velvet ribbon that feels very handsome. And I kind of just treat this more of like the boys' space. So they love when we can have, this room with the lights are off and we're watching a movie, but the tree is on. It's just a really kind of magical, moody, kind of library feel spot. So on our tree, these are just some pieces that I've collected for years and years. This beautiful acorn ornament I received when my husband and I got married, and this one as well. And then we've just added some things over the years that just create, to me, a little bit more sparkle, but add to the textural elements of the tree. So a pretty amber ball, some of our more like silver, pretty kind of reflecting things, and then a lot of this kind of silver glitter that just gives it a little bit more shine. I love combining ribbons. I think that it elevates just an everyday ribbon that you could find at a craft store. So this one, we've got a beautiful kind of linen plaid combined with the pretty brown velvet. And to me, it just adds such a great kind of textural quality to the tree, along with a couple of just fake antlers that we've poked in here and there. And then, of course, some beautifully styled gifts under the tree. So here in the study above the fireplace, I wanted it to have just a different feel than what I've done in years past. So, of course, as an interior designer, things in my house move all the time. There was a really beautiful painting there, but I've relocated it. So it gave me the opportunity to do something kind of different above the mantle. So here I've got this really pretty, just green wreath with, again, the same ribbon combination as the tree, and it's just a little bit more unexpected. And again, kind of that moody sort of library vibe. We've got this beautiful swag here across the mantle. We double swagged it so it feels nice and full. And then I took just simple little jingle bells and tied beautiful silk ribbon on them. And it just adds to, you know, just a little bit different look than what we've done in years past. And I think it also is just a very gentle nod to the Christmas season. Next, I'd love to show you our dining room. Welcome to our more formal dining room. Even after just living here for 2.5 years, this room has been the home to so many different celebrations for our family. And I love that even though it's technically the formal dining room, I try to keep it a little bit more approachable by having, you know, very tactile things here. We've got comfortable chairs where our friends and our family love to linger. We've got, you know, a buffalo check on our drapery, but then it's really elevated as well by things like our silver service on the buffet, and then, you know, some of the more dressy things in the room. So here on this holiday table, I wanted to do something that was a little different, but also complemented what we've done in the study. So I took my just kind of everyday brown and white buffalo check tablecloth that's a part of my collection for Maggie Griffin at home. And it's just a very easy way to kind of create a very approachable palette on the table. They wash really well. If you've got a messy house guest or someone spills a glass of wine, then it's easy just to throw it into the wash. So that was the way that I started my tablescape. Then I love figuring out a way to bring in a textural element through a woven charger, or perhaps it's a little bit of raffia in another sense, or, you know, a woven something. But here I chose my woven chargers to just give a little textural element to the table before I started layering in all of the china. So my blue and white china, I have tons of this pattern. It's not expensive, but it adds such a sense of permanence and history to a room when you can incorporate things like a classic blue and white pattern. And I love that it was a little bit unexpected for the holidays. So I chose the woven charger, the blue dinner plate, the blue and white dinner plate, and then this just really fun hand-painted pattern with these two cute deer under, you know, a very kind of chinoiserie pagoda style structure that just is a little bit more unexpected. It's not your typical Christmas china, but again, it just gives a little nod to the holiday season when it's layered, especially in with the blue and white. I love layering in things like fruit, or, you know, in this case, we've got pecans, and that's just a subtle nod. My family has a pecan farm in Middle Georgia, and I just love that it brings a little bit of history to my table as well. And then the bowl of oranges, to me, oranges just very much speak to the Christmas season. So I love just, you know, a beautiful silver bowl full of oranges just adds another playful touch to your tabletop. I've also incorporated just a couple of Christmas balls in a silver bowl that give it just a nod to the holiday season as well, without being too overwhelming with Christmas decor in general. The candlesticks are some of my favorite items. These kind of more whimsical bubble candlesticks, I just love the color. I think the height is really great, and I love the kind of unexpected sort of dusty salmon of those, and the way it pulls in from the beautiful dried hydrangeas. I love bringing in kind of that beautiful brown tone this time of year, but pulling in, you know, a beautiful orchid that just speaks to the holiday season. And then, you know, layering in things like simple glassware and all of your beautiful, you know, sterling silver flatware. It just elevates the mood, and it's always important to me. I want my guests to know that they are welcome here and that I have gone to effort to have them here. It's a way that I show love, and especially here during the holiday season. So these beautiful hand-painted fans I bought on a trip last year. I was in Spain and was walking down a sidewalk with my mother, and we just happened to peek into the most lovely local artisan shop where this just kind older gentleman was hand painting all of these beautiful fans. And I'm so happy that my mom and I stopped what we were doing. We were headed somewhere, and I feel sure we were tight on time, and we made the point to stop. But I just thought that it was just a really interesting way to bring something home from our travels, and also that I got to meet this beautiful artist who was creating all of these incredible things. And these were just two of the ones that I thought were beautiful. I could have really just bought the whole store, but I loved that they were unusual and different, and kind of the hot pink and the teal was a little bit unexpected, but just the handmade quality. And then I had a very talented local framer here in Gainesville create these acrylic boxes that I think just really make them more into sculptural pieces for our dining room. One of my favorite pieces in my dining room, and really in my whole house, is this really interesting Mexican candelabra that came from my grandparents' home. I remember this piece sitting in their living room as I was growing up, but then one day it just wasn't there anymore. And so I was there over the past couple of years, and I opened a drawer, and it felt like a million pieces. So many of the little ornaments were off, it was broken, and all I could think was that someone had knocked it over and was well intended to maybe put it back together someday and had just never done it. And so really it was in so many pieces it almost felt a little overwhelming to try to get it put back together. But I brought it back and we were able to glue it back together. There's even some little metal pins that are keeping parts of it together. And I'm just so glad that I was able to salvage it and have a piece of them here in my house. My grandparents traveled all over the world, and to see the treasures that they took the time to bring back home to their house is really just really special. And so this one they brought back from Mexico. It's hand painted and it's signed by the artist, and I'm just so happy to have it here. So my husband and I have had lots of houses over the years. It's something that the two of us really enjoy doing. We love the process. We've renovated, we've moved a fair amount. We've had second homes, and it's just something that he and I both love to do, fortunately. And when the opportunity came up for us to build a home here in Gainesville, we were so excited. The process took about 3 years to complete between the plans and the building, and it was just a labor of love. He and I both love the process. We love learning, and so now we've been here for 2.5 years, and the time has just gone by so quickly. We grew our family during the time of building the house, so we added, my third son came along during the building process, so we had to make a couple of changes and a couple of pivots. But even when we moved in, it just naturally, it fit us so well. It suits our family, and we're just so excited to be here for another holiday season. So now that we're leaving our dining room, I'd love to show you our bar area. The wet bar area in our home becomes a very popular place during our parties. It could have been, and maybe should have been, 3 times this size, but I think because it's just a cozy spot, it's where people sort of end up, a conversation happens, and I love that. I love when people feel so at home at our house and they find every little nook and cranny to spend time together. So in our bar, I love also having a place when we do have guests over, or if it's a dinner party or even just a casual afternoon meal, that our guests and our friends and our family know where to go and find that special wine glass that they love to use, or maybe they're just fixing an iced water and they know where the wine opener is. And so I love that it's sort of all here. One of my favorite things that we put into our home when we built it were a pair of dishwasher drawers. So these are dishwasher drawers hidden by our cabinet panels, but at the end of the night, when you have so many friends over and everyone has had multiple glasses, it is so nice to just put everything in here and run it all at once and not overcrowd the regular dishwashers in the kitchen. But I just love that the bar area too, it always feels like a special place to incorporate things during the holidays, that maybe feel a little bit more elevated and special, like I mentioned earlier. So having out your champagne bucket, if someone's coming over or you're having a party and you want to just have that celebratory glass of champagne at the beginning of the night, but also for those who maybe want to find, a way to mix a drink, or even just to fix a glass of water, we've got everything right here that they would need. Over the years, I've collected lots of holiday things for our family. We have ornaments that we've gotten from our travels. We have, things that have been passed down to us from our mothers, our grandmothers, a collection of Santa Clauses, and lots of different things that I love to bring out during the holiday season. I don't bring out everything I have. I do like to mix it up because that's a way to kind of make it feel a little different from year to year. I always make sure that all of the silver is polished, that I have plenty of candles in the drawer for the candlesticks, and make the entertaining process a little easier on myself. Welcome to our kitchen. So our kitchen is truly the heart of our home. And aside from the mudroom, is really the place that gets so much wear and tear throughout the day. We have 3 active young boys. There are always extras, and we cook a lot. One of my favorite things to do is to plan my weekly menus of what I'm going to fix for our dinners. And this is really the space where we can kind of wind down at the end of the day and share our family meal together. In our kitchen, I kept the holiday decor a little bit more minimal, just to allow for everyday use. We make a mess, we spread out, we always have dishes and pots and pans and tons of things that I need to clean at the end of the night. And so I didn't want the space to feel too crowded with overdone holiday decor. But this year, I did do a subtle nod to a blue and white Christmas, and you'll kind of see that throughout the house. In the front entrance, I've got 2 blue and white pots. On my dining table, there's some blue and white china. And here in the kitchen, we've got another set of blue and white china, as well as the beautiful ginger jars that are filled with live magnolia and cedar and just these really fun green things that we were able to pick from the yard. I've combined ribbons in this space again too, and again we have the beautiful chocolate velvet combined with this fun kind of velvety sage green. And again, it's not your typical Christmas colors, but it gives such a beautiful earthy nod to the holiday season that I feel like it's just such a great way to enhance the room without taking over the space. And especially during the holiday season, again, I love to just have beautiful bowls of produce out. These brown pears are some of my absolute favorites. And I just love the way that it pairs with the pretty colors of the ribbon and then all of the greenery from the arrangements. So right off of our kitchen is our more casual dining space, or our breakfast room. And this year, I really wanted to play up a little bit more whimsical look. So I spent yesterday creating these really fun, vintage, nostalgic paper chains. It just reminds me so much of childhood. And I can remember sitting there with my mom and my 2 brothers and my sister and creating paper chains out of, whatever craft paper we had around. But it just adds such an element of whimsy and fun, especially to our more casual dining room. This is a space where if we're having our weeknight dinners and maybe we have some friends over, we'll kind of plop in here. Most of our meals we eat at our kitchen island just because it's easy. But in here, this is where we can really have a comfortable meal, if even during the summertime or the nicer days when my husband is out on our porch grilling. This is just such an easy place for us to land. So this year, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I got really inspired by just the thought of some pink and some green. And it's not your typical Christmas color combination, but I do think that it really works in this particular room, especially with the beautiful sage green of the walls and then all of the window light that we have here in the breakfast room. So I had my vintage Christmas china that I did use in here. This particular set was from my mother-in-law, and I'm just so happy that I have it. But I paired it with a little bit more elevated pink charger, one of the ones from Nursery, but kept it really approachable with the bamboo flatware and then just some really pretty kind of more textural things layered in, like the combination of the glassware. We've got a little bit of brown, we've got a little bit of crystal and a little bit of green, and then we've got the fun little treat poppers on the table that just give it a little more whimsical feel, very useful for the children, and then just brought it together with a great seersucker napkin, so simple and casual. And then I had this tablecloth made from one of my favorite fabrics from Lee Joffa, and it just pulls the colors in so well. I love the kind of off-white linen background. I love the pink in here and then the shades of green. And it doesn't scream Christmas to me, but it does feel so much more like the holidays. And it just gives us a nice place to entertain casually with our friends and family during the month of December. I found this vintage nativity set at an antique mall in Middle Georgia. And I was immediately blown away by not only were there so many pieces, and intact. I also loved that it was a little bit bigger nativity set than what I had seen. I loved the size of, the camels and the figurines and then the beautiful creche pieces. But I also really loved this really simple but elegant kind of blanc de chine look, with it being just the white and then of course with the gold barn area. And I've been collecting creamware for a really long time. I've got some really interesting pieces that have come from England that I found in antique malls, that I have found at Scott's Antique Market in Atlanta. And so this year I was thinking, how fun would it be to kind of elevate the nativity scene combined with the pretty creamware display. And I just love this. I just tucked in a little bit of this faux greenery that just gives it a little nod to the holidays with a natural touch. But it was just such an interesting set, and I'm so tickled that I grabbed it that day, and I hope that it's something that I can continue and pass down to my boys. I have since learned that they were ceramic kits that were made in the 70s, and that you could buy your kit and you could paint it whatever colors or style that you wanted to, and then you could fire it on your own. And so someone just gave me that little bit of knowledge one day, and I think that's just really fun to think about, that another family took such great care of it for so many years, and now we get to. So now we'll leave the breakfast room and I'll show you our keeping room. Last year, I invested in this beautiful, tall, new tree. We do enjoy having a pre-lit Christmas tree, but this one to me just feels so elegant, and the height of it is just so fun and magical for the holidays. And I love that you can see it right when you walk in our front door. We needed something a little taller for our ceiling height, and I've placed it here in front of the window, which is just one of my favorite spots. And this year, I just went a little more minimal on the ornaments and just tucked in some of the things that I felt like made more of a difference. There's this beautiful, just red and linen striped wide ribbon that I think is a subtle nod to Christmas, and this pretty kind of iridescent sage green paired with it. To me, not every house looks great with bright candy apple red and bright green. Maybe your house feels a little bit more suited to kind of a dusty red, or maybe it's a coral and a green combination. And so I think that that's something that I've kind of learned over the years is sort of what works with our home. But with this tree, I've loved just kind of seeing all of the beautiful sparkle of the lights, and then just chose some really big Christmas balls that give a little bit more reflection. And having 3 boys, I have to be careful about what all I have kind of at least at the bottom of the tree. And so these are just very inexpensive plastic shatterproof balls that I paired with some of my nicer things that I've had for a really long time. So some of the other glass balls, and then a couple of just of my pretty detailed ones. And I think that it just is an interesting combination that I haven't done before, but I'm really loving the way it feels. And kind of as a nod to the nostalgic feel of our Christmas this year, I chose to hang our needlepoint stockings here on the mantle. And lots of these are just things that we've collected over the years. And I love that these both belong to my mother-in-law. These were hanging in my in-laws' house before we had children. And I love that we have them now, and that this is my husband's stocking that he's had for so many years. And now I've been able to add some really special ones for our boys, for Henry and Samuel and John Reese. So this is our keeping room, but it's also kind of our more formal living space. It's the space where we can seat a lot of people in several different areas. And I needed it to feel comfortable, but also feel elevated. And I love the arrangement in this room. It's really unique to the space. It gives us several different areas for conversation, which is one of my favorite things to do for myself, but also for my clients. So I've got some pieces that I've had over the years and just kind of made room for them in this space. My beautiful pair of green velvet sofas, which are just so comfortable and deep and just really make you want to cozy up in front of the fire. But this corner is fairly new to the room. So of course I have started to play Mahjong, and I needed a place where it was a little tucked away where I could have my Mahjong set and we could have friends over to play, but also it's turned into just the most fun little spot to just have a great conversation. So I love that when we have parties and when we entertain, that people can find themselves in a space to have a more intimate conversation versus, into the big mix of the party. And this particular corner, I feel like just serves that so well. I found this really inexpensive wooden table that I had painted in just this great shade of aubergine and pulled up two of my spool chairs that I've had for ages. And then the banquette is custom made in this great wool plaid, and it's just the most comfortable place to end up at the end of the night. If you're not playing Mahjong, it's an awesome place to just sit and have a little snack, have that last glass of wine, or catch up with a friend at a party. And it's become just a fun little nook where we kind of all fight over it. And I love that we can play cards here, we can do puzzles here, we can play games, or it can just be for conversation. So this space at the bottom of our staircase is an extension of our foyer. It's a connecting space from the front door to the living room and the study and the dining room as well. And I just love that it's a spot where, especially when we're entertaining, people sort of gather here. It's a place where you can catch up, where people are kind of talking and mingling, but also when everyday life is happening, this is kind of our thoroughfare for our main hallway. And so I felt like it needed to feel very styled and beautifully appointed, but also show a little bit more of our personality. So it's no secret that I love antiques. I have beautiful things that I've inherited from both sides of our family all over our house, and this was a piece that I recently acquired, and I just think it's such a beautiful piece here that kind of grounds the space. It gives it some permanence, and it's a place too where I can tuck a pair of lamps. You'll see I have lamps all over my house, and they stay on all the time, all night long, and also just kind of mixing fun styles together. We have the beautiful French piece here with a pair of the blue and white lamps, but mixed with these interesting pieces of modern art. And so I love that combination. I think that it just really makes a space feel very personal and it feels more like us. And so here I've paired this large scale abstract painting with two smaller pieces. And then these are actually some prints that I picked up when we were traveling and had framed all by a local framer who is so talented and just brings my artistic vision to life. I loved, tucking in this beautiful flower arrangement that again isn't just your traditional Christmas, but it brings in those Christmas tones that I have sprinkled all over the house, like the beautiful red berries, kind of the more coral rose, and then the lime green of this just stunning orchid. And then paired with the turquoise glass hurricanes and the bowl of oranges, to me is just the most fun color combination that just makes it feel more special for every day. I'd love to take you guys upstairs and see my son's rooms. So here we are in my 3-year-old son John Reese's room, and it's just the sweetest little nursery. This space is full of light and it's just the perfect little room for him. And in my boys' rooms, I wanted to have a little nod to the holidays, but also keep the space clear for them to have their treasures that they love. But here in particular in John Reese's room, he was so excited for the kind of more vintage Christmas tree to land here for him. And I just love the nod to, years past and this fun, bright, colorful ceramic Christmas tree. It just felt really exciting and fun for him as our 3-year-old, and paired with the beautiful watercolor portrait of this beautiful pheasant by Eliza Price. I just love the combination. It was so suitable for him, but also minimal. And then he also has this fun little nod to nostalgia with his little J letter that lights up at night. And it's just a fun little way to add a couple of holiday things for him without overwhelming the room. So John Reese's room is really such a sweet and special place filled with things that we have had for our other 2 sons as well. And one of those things is the beautiful crib that I bought almost 13 years ago for our oldest son. And it has just been such a wonderful thing to pass down through the 3 boys. They've all used it, and it's just a sweet and special piece that I'll have forever. John Reese also has these fun little birds over here as well, and I just love the little pop of color that they bring to the otherwise white room. I also have a fantastic collection of vintage Christmas books that my mother-in-law passed down to us, and I'm just so grateful to have the collection that I can, we can read those to the boys, we can remind them of how much she loved them, and it's just a special collection that I will continue to grow but pass down for them too. But just a couple of them, some older pieces and some older books that I just think are so fun that we read during the Christmas season. But you'll see those kind of stacked throughout the house. There's something that we grab all holiday season long. So now we can leave the nursery and I'll show you my older 2 boys' rooms. So here we are in my middle son Samuel's room. He is almost 9 years old and clearly loves dinosaurs. He's really just my animal lover. So you'll see here in his room that he has little nods to his love of animals and dinosaurs and the zoo and all things animal all over his space. And this was a way, when we were building our home, I just wanted him to have a place to display what he deems are his treasures. He loved dinosaurs from the moment that he could talk. And I just love that he's been able to continue to grow his collection. He knows all of their names, and it's just something that I really wanted to nurture and foster for him. And now that he's a little bit bigger, he's into some sports things as well, but he still loves his animals and dinosaurs. And so when we were decorating his tree this year, he wanted his own tree in his room. And so I just started with kind of smaller trees for the 2 older boys. And we pulled some fun little dinosaur ornaments that had a little extra sparkle, and of course his little red fire truck, and some of his things that he's made at school over the years. But it was just a fun way to incorporate a little bit of Christmas into his space. He also has the countdown until Christmas on his nightstand. So he loves every day he gets to change out, the days left until Christmas. But again, I just tucked in a little nutcracker that we bought on our travels last year, and kept his decor a little simpler so that he can still have the space to move around with his friends when they're over, and also just, enjoy his bedroom. So Samuel's room is on the front of our home, and it gets plenty of light, as you can see. And so when we were building the house, I really wanted it to feel warm and cozy for him. So we added the beautiful vertical shiplap on the walls. We did the tongue and groove ceiling, and I really just wanted the whole space to feel very enveloped and color drenched with this great shade of blue. It's called Brewster Gray by Benjamin Moore, and of course looks different in all lights. A lot of times during the day it can look very bright blue, kind of almost like a nautical blue, but then sometimes at night I can see some beautiful shades of green. And to me it just provided such a great backdrop for the things that he loves. He's got these great watercolor dinosaur prints here on the wall, and he's also got this beautiful custom dinosaur painting above his bed by my friend Elaine Burge. And so those were ways that I could incorporate what he loves into feeling more artistically designed. He also has a bunch of my mother-in-law's vintage Christmas books here. He loves to read. He goes to bed reading every night. And so, you know, during this time of year, we get to choose a Christmas book, and that's kind of how we fall asleep. And I just love that his room feels so much like him. And to me, I chose things that I feel like can grow with him over time. And as he transitions into more, you know, into different things as he gets older and finds other interests, that it will be easy for me to do that when the backdrop is already so sweet. All right, so now that we're leaving Samuel's room, I would love to show you Henry's bedroom. So Henry is my oldest son, and this is his space. Henry has always loved the color green. Even when he was little, he said that that was his favorite color. And so after we chose the beautiful color of blue for Samuel's room, I really wanted to incorporate some of that green tone into Henry's space. And so I chose Antique Pewter by Benjamin Moore, are all of his walls and ceiling and trim in this room. And to me, it gives such an elevated backdrop for as he continues to grow and changes his interests as well. It's such a pretty color with all of his things. So in here, he really wanted his own Christmas tree this year too, and so his is a little bit more sports themed. He loves the Georgia Bulldogs, and so we have lots of Georgia Bulldog things. We also love the Atlanta Braves and anything sports in our house. And so he was so excited to choose some of his first Christmas ornaments, and of course we've got a little taxi from our trip to New York, and he loves to go fishing with his granddaddy, and you know, a little Santa Claus, but also these fun kind of Georgia themed ornaments that give him a little nod to the holidays without being overwhelming. So when Henry transitioned out of a smaller bed and we moved here to this home, I wanted him to have a larger, more handsome bed that felt like it could really grow with him for a very long time. And I love just the kind of vintage spool look. This one is in this great kind of white oak tone, and it just feels very elevated and like something that can truly stay with him for a very long time. He's at 12 years old. He's at the age where, you know, they travel in packs. And so there's lots of boys that are coming over and kind of hanging out on the weekends. And so I wanted them to have a place where they could kind of have the space to themselves, but also sort of hang out. And so we were able to put this great green velvet sofa in his room too that I've had for years and have had covered a couple of different times, but it just suited him. It's a place where he can kind of curl up if he needs to have some privacy to do his homework. He can come upstairs and do that. And then I also had my talented friend Elaine, she painted this painting for him as well, when we won the national championship a few years ago. And I just love that it's such an unconventional kind of sports painting that really adds a touch of him and artistic whimsy to the room. So now we are in the primary bedroom. And this space is really one that I wanted to feel relaxing, but beautiful and a little bit more feminine. And so I chose this really soft, serene mural from Schumacher for the walls, and I have loved it every day since. But to me, paired with the dark trim color, it gives such a nice balance of masculine and feminine. And the trim color in this space is Dark Pewter by Benjamin Moore. And I just love that it makes the space that is a little bit bigger, but also feels cozy with this color. And as you can see, there's so much light in this room, and our bedroom is on this beautiful corner of our house. And so we can see the trees, you know, through all of our windows. And I just love that. I chose the bamboo bed. It had been on my wish list for a very long time, and I was so excited to save up for this and get this bed for when we moved into this house. And I just love that it feels like an older piece, but is just a really fun way to bring in that warm tone in the room. My nightstands are reproduction French, and they're from a local dealer in Atlanta. But again, it just gave a little bit of patina and texture to the room in this fun kind of distressed blue-gray on the nightstands. I keep our room very minimal as far as holiday decor. So because bedrooms should be a place of rest and rejuvenation, I really just wanted to have a subtle nod to the season. And so here on my husband's nightstand, I just have this fun little vintage deer plate as a subtle nod to the holiday season. But on my side of the bed, I would love to show you this fun little tree that I just did, and it's really become one of my favorite things. So over the years, I had collected just some kind of disparate pieces of jewelry, things that had belonged to maybe my grandmother's or my mother-in-law, or even things that were my mom's that I wasn't necessarily going to use or display, but I had just kind of collected these things. And so I found this incredible artist on Etsy that I sent all of these things to, and of course she added in some things as well, but really just incorporated everything that I sent her way into the most fun jeweled tree. You can see I've got, a little bracelet that has my boys' names on there. I've got these fun pendants that are monograms of mine and my mother-in-law's. This is a coin I brought back from a trip. And, I can really look at this tree and see the stories of people that I love. This was a brooch that belonged to my mother-in-law. This was a ring that I had for ages. My mother-in-law's monogram, my grandmother's beautiful little cross pendant, and it just tells a story of people and women really that I love that came before me, and creates this beautiful piece of art to display it. So that's one of my favorite things. During the holiday season, home means to me a place where you can be with the people that you love the most, and it's a cozy place where you can celebrate your new traditions, your old traditions, and bring together the people that you love, your friends and your family, and everyone can feel a part of those beautiful days leading up to the holiday season. Homeworthy, it has meant so much to me to have you at my house today for the holiday season, but I've got to get back to work. Bye.
Today we're stepping inside the maximalist Mississippi home of tastemaker Emily Ryan, where tradition meets color in the most joyful way. Her vibrant and thoughtfully collected spaces are drenched in holiday magic. From a beautifully layered tree to a stunning dining room alive with pops of pink, each corner is full of traditional Christmas charm.
I love a historic looking tree. And to me, this is kind of that old world Christmas with the pomanders and the rust and the gold and the bells.
Today, she opens her doors to share a holiday home that's as warm and welcoming as it is beautiful, a celebration of the season perfectly at home. To watch Emily's full home tour ad-free, where she shows off her jewel box guest bath, scan the QR code on screen, or visit homeworthyplus.com for access to all of our latest episodes ad-free and to receive other exclusive membership perks.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Emily Ryan. Welcome to my house. Come on in.
This Christmas, Homeworthy invites you into a season of wonder. Over the next 25 days, we're stepping into homes that sparkle with holiday cheer, where garlands tumble from mantels, ornaments hang like tiny treasures, and every corner comes alive with joy, merriment, and the spirit of the season.
And I don't know how many ornaments are on the tree. Last year I got 1,400 on, and they were made all over the world. There were ones made in America, Poland, Italy, Japan, just a wide variety, and I love them all.
We'll visit homes where traditions are cherished, where beauty is made by hand, and where rituals become memories that last a lifetime.
We make about 400 of these rolls every year, and on Christmas Eve, our family delivers them to certain families within the area, and our kids get to participate in choosing who gets them.
From quiet moments by the fire to happy gatherings around the table, we're celebrating the way the holidays transform our spaces and fill them with magic.
We do quite a dressy table because it's Christmas and it's a party and you want it to feel special, but you also, it's nice to make the table a little bit kind of imperfect, a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I want people to feel at a party in my home is as if they're kind of wearing a ball gown but going barefoot. You know, it's that kind of high-low moment, the kind of specialness, but also the coziness of being really comfortable.
So pour something warm, settle in, and join us for Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas, a season-long celebration of holiday magic. To watch Homeworthy's entire Christmas collection ad-free, visit homeworthyplus.com or scan the QR code on screen. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name's Emily Ryan, and I'm a blogger with Little House of Chic blog. Welcome to my house in Oxford, Mississippi. When we found this house, it was actually during COVID, and my husband and I were sitting at home, and we were always dreaming of having a place in Oxford, Mississippi, which is our alma mater. And one night I was having a glass of wine on my patio in Atlanta, and this house came up, and it was right within the range that we wanted to purchase, and it had everything I was looking for. And so that very night we messaged them to put in an offer, and with just a couple days we were under contract. So it was like absolute serendipity, and we've been here for a couple years now since. While this house wasn't exactly a flip job, it did need a lot of personality. It was kind of a white box when I came in, and so I'm someone who is definitely a maximalist, which you'll see. And when I started decorating this house, I realized that with the open concept, I needed to infuse a lot of different color and texture to make sure that this house worked. And so it's been a joy to put this together over the last 3 years, and I'm really excited to see all the changes that it's taken on. So my love of holiday decor and going all out for the season really did start with my childhood. My father, who definitely is tight with his money, he let us really go all out every holiday season because Christmas was his favorite. We would hire a decorator at the house and everything would be transformed so magical, and that's just an experience that's always stayed with me. And so I think that one of the ways that you can show that you care for your family and your friends is creating an experience for them, whether it's as simple as a bottle of wine and a cheese board or going to the extreme that I like to do for holiday decorating, but it's just a little way that I show my love for them and the holiday season. Welcome to our dining room. The first thing that I have to share are these new chairs that I just got. I actually found these from another designer in Atlanta who had them for a couple years and never got around to touching them up. And so I purchased them. He had a warehouse sale, and I just got them recovered in this gorgeous linen. So before that, they were in kind of like that old school 80s silk. And one of the things that I always really love is adding thoughtful details. And to me, this is such a Southern thing. And so I went and had my husband and my monogram put on the back of the chairs and had my upholsterer add that in, which I think just gives it such a thoughtful detail, and it's so interesting, and I'll never be able to resell them, but that's okay. Pacing through, so this year, what I wanted to do in the dining room was make something that felt kind of like a garden theme. So when I first started this room, I had a mural on one wall. I had worked with a brand, and once I had the mural in place, I thought, I need to add a lot of personality in here. And so what I did is I had my handyman actually take some of this gorgeous lattice work and I framed it out into boxes to give it a little bit more of a modern look on something that's very old school French, and we painted it to match the color of my mural. And I love the way that it turned out. It's kind of like a wallpaper, but 3D. And so for Christmas, what I decided to do was take these gorgeous large bowls and my pedestals and fill them with a tree and do some really gorgeous garland. We've got pearl here that I just think is so gorgeous, and some really pretty rhinestones with pearls, and just kind of did this drippy look with the varying garland and ornaments. And these are all actually Italian glass blown. So they're really stunning and truly one of a kind, and I love them. And then my grandma, who is still with us, by the way, she just turned 94. I went and visited her in California just a couple weeks ago for her birthday. And I stayed at her house, and while I was there, I saw this goose. And, you know, a lot of people have their eyes on things when they go to their grandparents' house, and I doubt very many people want a wooden goose. But for me, I saw it and I said, I have to have that thing. So I asked her, I said, what are your plans for the goose? And she was like, please take it with you. So they used to live in Arkansas years ago, and this was hand carved by a local artisan at a craft fair. And so actually my grandfather was the one who wanted it. And so she let me take it home, and I christened him with a little bow for the holiday season. And if you look up from the goose, this gorgeous ribbon this holiday season, it has such a Cinderella effect. I almost wanted to get like little birds that looked like they were, you know, holding up the sides like the Cinderella movie, but I couldn't find anything that would work. But I love the way it looks on this Chippendale mirror. And the Chippendale mirror actually was a find back in Atlanta. I had found a really gorgeous chandelier that I had gone to go meet this woman to go pick up, and she had a storage unit. And so while we're in the storage unit, I see this mirror, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if she even knows what she has. So I said, do you have any plans for that mirror? And she was like, well, I keep thinking maybe I'll, you know, sell it, maybe I'll keep it. She's like, what's your offer? And I was like, well, you know, you tell me, it's your mirror, let me know what you want it for. And she offered it to me for $300. And I did everything in my mind not to let my jaw hit the floor, because this is a very expensive one-of-a-kind mirror. And so I'm like, well, let me text my husband and make sure he's okay. I'm not texting my husband. So I'm like, you know, after I played the game, so she didn't realize that she was giving me quite a deal, I went ahead and snagged it from her. And this has been like one of my favorite pieces that I've had ever since. And I just love it. The next thing that I want to show off is this gorgeous chandelier. I'm a big auction person, and living in Mississippi, one of the best auction houses is actually in New Orleans, and they get French antiques all the time. So I saw this chandelier, and I woke up one Saturday morning and it was up for bid, and I needed something new in here. And so I ended up being the highest bidder and got it and had it installed, and I have just absolutely loved it. I replaced the light bulbs with these silicone tipped bulbs, and that just kind of softens the light. When you're in a dining room, you really don't want harsh lighting that when you look up, it hurts your eyes. It should always feel soft to look up. And so the silicone tipped is a really great way to do that if you don't want to use a shade. I took these ornaments and dripped them from the chandelier. This is actually a ribbon like you would use on the end of a balloon, for example. And so if you double knot it, it'll do a great job, and it's nice and light so it doesn't, you know, do too much. You could also use fishing line. And then I saw these gorgeous butterflies and decided it would look so pretty to have them just kind of look like they're cascading up the chandelier. Once again, that kind of Cinderella garden feel. And so I really love the way that those came out. And for the table, I got this flower arrangement done. And one of the things that I like to do whenever I'm doing one color around a space is wake it up with something. And so I picked this hot pink. And when I was showing them the photos, they're like, are you sure about that? I'm like, absolutely. And so the pink, what it does is it just kind of helps make everything feel more lively. And you can even take some of your extra ornaments and just stick them right into your flower arrangement so that it matches the space that you're working in. And all of a sudden you have a really cohesive look that is great. And another one of my decorating tips that I love to do for the holidays is using a wreath as part of the centerpiece. It fills up a lot of the space. I've got this gold pedestal here, and if I were hosting a dinner party, I might also spray paint some pears in gold and place those all around. But for simplicity, I just did a wreath today, and I thought it looked so great. And I'm a big plate collector, so these big pieces of furniture are absolutely stuffed with plates and silverware and napkins. And that love came from my grandmother. So when I was a kid, my grandma had a linen closet that was like someone's regular closet of just plates and linens and silverware. And whenever we would come and stay, she would let my cousin and I pick out what we wanted to pick for the table. And that was so special to us because we just thought it was so magical. And so I kind of carried that tradition on. And so when I'm in an antique store or if I'm traveling, that's one of the things that you can kind of collect that's really easy. You're always going to find them when you're on the road. And so you just pick up 4 here, 6 there, and it's okay to mix and match. So what I've actually done is I've taken a larger blue charger, and then I just put a very classic blue and white everyday dinner plate on top of that. One of the other things that I like to do in addition to or in place of a name card is actually get our initials monogrammed onto napkins, because most of the time I bring the same family around every season, so why not let them have their own napkin? If they stain it, they'll have it next year. So, and then I placed, these were actually little toppers for gifts. And so I just popped the ribbon out of the back and placed those on each place setting, and I thought it was just the cutest little touch. And I also love, I talk about these on my blog all the time because I'm obsessed. Acrylic blocks, they are so cheap on Amazon. And what I do is I just use my printer at home. This is thin paper, and I create a design in Canva and I cut them out. And as soon as you put them into your acrylic block, it just kind of sets them off. It makes it look really good. And so I do this all season long. I also use this for like name cards and place setting for food. So if I'm having a buffet here, this will say, green beans or whatever it's going to be, and I'll actually hang on to those because a lot of times I do serve the same things year after year. And then talking about that color scheme again, these actually were a find from Cabo in Mexico. And I was there for a wedding, and everyone was out partying at like Senor Frogs or something, and I'm pulling my husband to a local glass blower that I found on Google. He was like, seriously? But he doesn't want me to get shot dead, so he's like, I will come with you. So we go on a wild goose chase, have to completely speak Spanish to get in the cab to go to this place. And we get there, and there's bars on the window, and it looked sketchy. And my husband's like, this is not it. And they're like, nope, this is the address. So we're like, please stay here, give us a minute. We walk in, look past the gate, and as soon as we walk in, we're completely transformed. It's bougainvillea everywhere and hand-blown glass. This was also a piece that I found there. The hearts are really popular in Mexico with the gold gilding. And so we ended up spending 2 hours in there, and the owners knew what they were doing because they put a tequila bar. So my husband left me alone, went to the tequila bar, and I got to do all the shopping that I wanted. So these were an awesome find from that spot, and I absolutely love the way that they complement the monograms on the back of the chairs. These draperies I had made, and they are a pitch pleat, which I love, and I just added a really nice decorative trim, and I love a good tie back because number one, they hold your pleats in place, which is great, so you don't have to keep retraining. And then the other thing is that it just kind of makes the space feel really nice and opened up. And so I love the way that that looks, especially next to the mural. So this is the mural that I've been talking about. And one of the things I like about this room, especially if you're like looking in the mirror over across the way and you look over here, it literally feels like you're in the house, in your garden room, looking out into the trees. And I just love the way that it makes the space feel. And it really gives it a lot of atmosphere. when people first walk into this room and turn the corner and see the mural, they're like, whoa, where did that come from? Because you're not expecting it. And so this is an open concept house. And so in order to be able to kind of work some character in, having like a hidden wall like this is a great space where you can take some big risks, like putting a mural. And there are a lot of ladies who I know want to infuse some interest into their open concept, but find it challenging. And so this is one of the ways that you can do that. And then going back to kind of that idea of waking things up, we've got all this beautiful blue and creams and pearl. And so what I did was I decided to pop some red in here. Red looks so great against blue. And so I usually do a Christmas party every year. And what I decided to do was a little cranberry French 75. So all you need is some Prosecco, a little liqueur, and then a pop of cranberry with some cranberries that are real inside. And it is just the best sipper. I love a good spritz, so that is a good one that's not gonna get people spilling the cookies onto your rug after too many. And usually what I'll do when I'm hosting for a party is I like to use these big servers to spread cocktails. One of the things about Southern hospitality is that people shouldn't have to ask where things are. It should all be out where they can see them. And so you'll want to put, you know, your wine bottle opener out if they brought their own alcohol, a bottle opener if they brought beer, glassware should always be out. There should always be a couple of cocktails that are already pre-mixed and ready so that when someone gets in, they don't have to ask you if they can serve themselves. They just know they can come over and grab one. And those are some of the tips that help people to feel really relaxed when you're hosting this holiday season. And another thing that I've done, I'm all about little special touches. And so I worked with someone on Etsy for some really fun custom cocktail napkins. And so they all have little sassy sayings, and I have more of these in my living room. This one says, "My Christmas spirit comes by the glass. The tree isn't the only thing getting lit." On Santa's bad list, we've got all kinds of them. So I actually, for the party that I did 2 years ago, had a huge stack of these as like a little giveaway item for everyone that came that night. It was their little gift to take home. And it was so fun to watch everyone go through their cocktail napkin and be like, oh yeah, this one's my personality. And they ended up finishing their collections, which was great. And it was a great conversation starter too, because people would walk around to others that they didn't know and be like, okay, which cocktail napkin did you pick? So that's a really fun little thing. I like something that starts a conversation for people who might not know each other. And I think that's a good tip if you're planning to host some people that are new to one another. So right off from my kitchen, we have this really beautiful old French antique. This was actually the very first piece of furniture that I ever purchased for myself. I was right out of college, and it was a whopping $400. And to me at the time, that was so much money to spend on a piece of furniture. And so I've had this for years, and I kept it in its original character. I decided not to paint it just because I think it has such a special story. And it really kind of took me on my journey for designing and for my house. And so going back to that little note about Southern hospitality, I always like to make sure that I've got an ample amount of different spirits out for people to be able to help themselves. And so I went ahead and set up a little display. This is actually also my grandmother's beautiful silver tray. And one of the other things that I've done is I really love the look of taxidermy like this, like the old English kind, not the your husband went and got a deer kind. But I think these look really beautiful, the mounts with the beautiful carved wood. And I just paired that with something really nice and more delicate, like this really pretty blue and white piece of pottery here. And another one of my favorite things around the holidays are pomanders. And these are fantastic because they're not real, and so I can use them time and time again. And I had a plan to do my own trees and didn't end up being able to actually do it. So what I really want to encourage is, you know, there's always something, there's always a workaround. You don't have to stress yourself out. if it looks great and it's not real, that's fine. It still gives the effect and you don't have to worry about it. And the other thing that I love, you can always find a really gorgeous piece at an antique store. In fact, just this past weekend, I knew I needed a little something for ice. And so I popped up to Sheffield's and I found this gorgeous cut crystal. And you don't always have to use an ice bucket. You can always use something footed or a big bulb, just something that looks pretty and seasonal and kind of goes with your decor. And I popped a cute little scoop in here with an antler to kind of play off of what I've already got going on. And it's pewter and looks great. But you always want to make sure that you've got an ice scoop so that people aren't putting their fingers in your ice. And so the other thing that I love, these candlesticks, yes, they're candlesticks. I found at High Point in North Carolina when I was there. And what I did, now we've got these great little Genesis lights. And so I just pop those into a shade that's magnetic. And then I just use that to place it right on top. And it balances, and that's a great way that you can make your candlesticks into lamps if you're looking for a space that you don't have a whole lot of room, but you definitely need a little pop of light. That's a really great and creative way that you can do it. And the sky's the limit on what you can find. And also, if it doesn't fit, you can always melt a little candle wax in the top of it, pop it in there, let it dry, and then forevermore it'll have its own little mold that you can put your little cell into, and it works great as a lamp, and I've loved them. So one of the things that you'll notice for the holidays is my staircase, and this year I decided to have some fun, and I wanted to do hot pink and orange. And the orange first came just because I knew I was using a lot of citrus this season. And so I thought it'd be fun to kind of work that in to the decor. And so when I saw this gorgeous orange ribbon, it's kind of silky, I loved the way it looked. And then I saw this beautiful hot pink, and it's got a lot of bling like me. I love a little bling. And so I added that into, and then did these magnolias. So for me, this is kind of a new look on Southern garland and design. We've got a lot of the classics like the magnolia and the pomander. And so once again, always have fun with your Christmas decor and use something that feels maybe a little brave. And I promise you it's gonna work out. So once this all got put together, I loved it, and added some bells on here. And then another little tip for Christmas decorating is that sometimes your cedar garland looks a little thin. And so my first year, I got way too little amount of garland that I needed, and it looked pretty wimpy. And in fact, it was so bad that I didn't even post any photos that year, but I had spent a fortune on getting garland. And so one of the tips that I learned when I was visiting some showrooms this summer in Atlanta for Christmas decorating is that they actually take 2 or 3 garland and then they zip tie them together to get that fuller effect. And the other nice thing about using a couple is that you can actually weave your lights in a lot easier and hide them. And so I think that the effect that I learned is just amazing. And so if that's been something you've been struggling with, this is a great way that you can beef up the garland on your staircase. So it's kind of always been a dream for me to have a leopard print runner in my staircase. I saw it in a design book or a magazine years ago. I can't even remember. I mean, in my early 20s. And when we moved to this house, we had nothing on the stairs originally. And it was kind of a tripping hazard because they're kind of steep. And also we host a lot of people for game day weekends. And so you can imagine if someone's had a couple of beverages and they're trying to head downstairs in the middle of the night, that's a little spooky. So what I did was I decided that I was definitely going to be doing a runner. And when I went to our local carpet store, I saw this and I fell in love with it. And one of the reasons that I liked this particular leopard print was because of the amount of dark variation. And what's great about that is that it hides dirt really, really well. And my husband was pretty skeptical when I told him we were gonna do leopard print, but he's ended up really liking it. And a large part of that is because, you know, if someone spills a drink or anything like that, you cannot see it on this rug and it cleans up like a dream. so it's been a really great addition. And then also there's this great estate sale store that's in Atlanta that I love to go to. And I knew I needed a little piece for right when you walked in. And I found this mirror, and it's, I think it's a Trumeau mirror. And once again, kind of like the French New Orleans vibe. I loved the way it looked. One of the things about Oxford is that since New Orleans is kind of close to us, a lot of people go on trips there. And so you'll see throughout Oxford, there are lots of nods to New Orleans style. And so because of that, I decided to pull some into this house in various areas. So you'll notice a lot of French antiques. And so that's one of them. And then another thing that New Orleans is known for are these beautiful big black lanterns. And so I found this one and put a candle in it and loved the way that it turned out. And if you've never been to New Orleans, you need to go because it is always incredible. They have some of the best food, the best antique stores. And where I actually grew up in Pensacola, Florida, it's a pretty quick drive. So I've always kind of been somewhere that was near New Orleans. So it's been a big influence on my designing as well. All right, welcome to my living room. This is the space that I spend the majority of my time in, and same with when we're entertaining. My husband and I love this room, and my husband gives me a lot of autonomy on decorating. Obviously, you've seen how much hot pink is all over the place. And so when it came to one design decision that he wanted for this room, I had to say yes. And so you'll see I have a big 80-inch elephant in the room back here, and that was his one request. And since we do live in a football town, it made a lot of sense to me to have a big TV for game day. So he got his wish, and I got all the rest of mine. So marriage is all about compromise, and this 80-inch TV has gotten me a lot of design decisions, like my leopard print runner, so I do not fight it. So the space, once again, this is open concept. And I wanted to add grass cloth in here, but because it ties into the rest of the house, I knew I needed to work it in a thoughtful way. And so one of the things I had done was I paneled out the walls and I just popped the grass cloth inside. And one of the things that I love about this way of working in color and wallpaper into a room is that it does, number one, it doesn't require that you need as much wallpaper. So it is a little bit of a cost savings, which is great. But the other part of it is that it's a really intentional, great way to break up big walls. And especially because all the walls in this house are so big, it lets me also be able to work in smaller pieces of artwork to panel that in. And so I've got some of my collection that I've just started on. And one of my favorite pieces is actually this really beautiful antique screen. It was kind of falling apart. And so I had someone kind of patch it back together for me. And it still has a lot of that antiquity, but I love that about it. And so we just put some little hangers on the back of it and popped those up on the wall, and it's worked great in the space. And then the other thing that was a little bit of an afterthought after I had done the wallpaper were my sconces in here. And once again, these are battery operated. And so that is what I love, is that, you know, sometimes when you're designing your house, you don't always have the end story in mind. And so this kind of gives you some flexibility not to have to rip down your wallpaper and start all over again. You can just put it right where it belongs and it'll work great. And I love that about these new rechargeable sconces that they've come out with. And so for Christmas, I really wanted to set this wall off. And so we came up, I had some help this year. I had a wonderful designer from Atlanta come up and help me for Christmas, who does a lot of showroom decorating. And so that was such a game changer. I've never seen anyone put bows out faster. I have a lot of skills, but bow making is not one of them. And so I was very thankful to have him. These pomegranates are so beautiful, and they're actually a sit-about. And so these worked great in that little spray that we put together. And then another thing that I love are these big pine cones during the holiday season. And I was a little bit early to find them this season. So I found these ornaments, and I like them anyways because while we have a real pine cone back there, we're able to pop in a little bit of color and still work with the overall look and feel. And so I really like how those came out. My sofa was one of the last pieces that I did in this room. And originally I had a cream sofa like so many of us do. And then I decided that I really wanted something kind of loud in here. And so I've always admired Latouche fabric. And I really like the brown. And so I decided that that was the color that I wanted to put on my sofa. And as I was designing this, then I decided that I wanted to go ahead and add some traditional boxes to it as well. And then I took that same trim and had them use it for the cording. And so the entire sofa is corded in this trim. And I love the way that it came out. And I just think that it adds so much to the room. And this room was the first place that I feel like, for the first time in my life, I really played with pattern a lot. And so this has been a really great lab for me to see what works well together. And so for the holiday season, I kind of wanted to pull from the colors that I had in these really pretty sprays that we had created. And so this was a pillow that I had had for years and years. It's kind of glam, it's a little modern. And so what's nice is it kind of pulls that gorgeous pomegranate. And then I found these when I was just at High Point, and they're a La Tigra that I absolutely love. And I just thought it went so great with the lime green, and it's fun. And I love a punch of kind of this real bright green in a room, because once again, I love to wake things up. So this to me wakes up the room really well. And then one of my favorite things for the holidays are faux fur pillows. I just think that they add a lot of coziness to a space. And while it's not exactly, 30 degrees here yet, it makes the space feel like it's cooler outside than it is, which I think is fun. Moving on, these chairs were actually an antique store find. Someone had given them away, and they were, I have two of them. And what's funny is that they were in two different fabrics, and I found them at separate times. But whenever I find a good bargain, I always make sure that I purchase it and I hang on to it until I have a use for it. And so I one day was just ready to get them recovered, ready to use them in this room. I love a swivel glider for a living room because it helps people be able to turn to the TV if you're watching a movie or a game, or turn in to talk to someone. So I love to use those in living rooms. And I found this celery green, and it's so pretty and soft. And so I started with that, and then worked in this very traditional navy check, and just kept playing from there. And it was actually funny. I found this lamp online, and I loved it. And I didn't really read the dimensions because I had been at market, and I thought that I knew in my mind how big the lamp was that I saw when I was there. And so I got this home, and I was like, oh my God, this thing is as big as me. I mean, if I stand next to this, it practically comes down to my hip. So when I got it, and I love the way that it fills up the space, but the thing was, when I knew I wanted to get a custom shade, I was like, I'm gonna have to go get hula hoops and tie this together to make a shade. But luckily we found one that was big enough, and I worked with some great people in Virginia that do custom lamps, and they helped me on the size. And so I just did this. This is a Formois shade again, this fabric. And what I love about their fabrics is that they really do cast a beautiful glow in all of their stuff. And so this really helped the room feel cozy and added a lot of warmth. And I love foo dogs. They're so fun. I found these on an antique store on Etsy, and the colors just kind of helped pop everything around the room. And I kind of feel like he needs a little Santa hat. So if y'all find a little something, send it to me. So let's talk about the tree this year. I love a historic looking tree. And to me, this is kind of that old world Christmas with the pomanders and the rust and the gold and the bells. And so to kind of modernize it, I took some wicker bells that I found. And then my designer that came and helped me, he actually wired these bells that I had inside, which I thought was so clever. And we just took some pine cones and partridge in a pear tree. Really throughout the house, I have a couple nods to that song. which has been fun. I don't exactly have 7 swans of swimming, but I do have a goose, so that kind of worked. And for the top of the tree, what I love to do is a lot of ribbon usually. And what I'll do is I'll usually take about 3 or 4 different ribbons and I'll go somewhere to have them make me a big old bow. And so this year, since I had some help, he came and did some beautiful loops and then put a bunch of sprays at the top. And I think that that really adds a lot instead of just a simple tree topper, which those are great too. But if you're looking for something a little maximalist, like what I've got, that's a really great way to do it with stuff that you've already got in the house. And we kind of pulled that through to the mantle as well. And since I've got this big TV, I've decided to put a fake fire on it. And that way, since it's so warm outside still, we have the look of the fire without the heat. And we took some really pretty cedar garland. That is my favorite garland, is cedar. And these are actually not real dried oranges, so I don't have to worry about bugs. But they look incredible. And then I've just kind of collected bleached antlers as I find them. I love them for Thanksgiving and just to add some texture. And so pop those up here to add a little interest. And this year, my husband and I are asking Santa for a special gift, a little puppy. We are preparing for him. And so I got him this little custom dog bed made in leopard print so that it's truly fit for a king. And then of course, every good boy needs a good little toy box. So I went and found some fun Christmas themed toys and got his little name put here, Bentley. And so that'll be his little perch when we get him. So one of the things that I really like in design is obviously adding a lot of fun to a space. I think if a home is too stuffy, people feel uncomfortable. And so I found this bust at an estate sale, and it is heavy. I dress him up every season. So in the spring, he wears bunny ears. In the summer months, he wears a Panama hat. And at Christmas, he's naughty. So that just is a little conversation starter, and I think it's really fun just to have a little joke in a room that people can talk about. And back to layering in old and new things. These are actually the very first Christmas stockings when my husband and I were dating that we bought and had our names put on. And they have such a sweet memory, and so I wanted to use them. And so I took our newer and a little bit more glitzy ones and just put them together. And also, bonus, you get more gifts this way. And you know what fits in these is jewelry fits really well. So tip, ladies, get 2. And while we don't have kids yet, I still like to put out cookies and milk for Santa to entice him, maybe to bring me a puppy or some jewelry or all the things Santa baby does. So I found this gorgeous cake at Whole Foods, and I loved it because I thought it was so perfect. It's like cookies for Santa. And I love to bake. I actually baked in college at a place called Emily's Bakery. Hilariously enough, people would be like, "Do you own this place?" I'm like, "I'm in college." No. But, when I'm busy in a bind, Kroger has the most incredible bakery cookies. No one can ever tell the difference. And I love to buy these when I'm hosting parties or having people over. And once again, I told you guys I love a fun detail. So I've got all my fun little cocktail napkins, and I keep these up year round, but they all have something funny, like drink up and spill the tea. Will I need pants or a bra? Then no. Stop staring at my top shelf. They're all silly, pouring one out for my reputation. So I always have these for people because, once again, it's something fun and makes your house not so serious. And the last thing that I'll point out while we're in here is some of my bookshelves and some of the things that I've done on the other side of the room. So first, this, by the way, is the most impressive purchase that I've ever found. This is a Brighton Pavilion chair, and I found this for $25. That was incredible. The cushion was about 11 times that. And I had a gorgeous custom trim put on it. But I just love this piece, and it's definitely not somewhere you're gonna sit down. So kind of sending that message through some needlepoint pillows. This one says, "I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, but I'll tote streak the red," which red wine's always my favorite in the holidays. But just, you know, putting some stuff on there that kind of say, this isn't a sitting chair, but I love that little piece. And bookcases, this is actually the first house that we ever lived in that had bookcases. And so I had to collect and collect. And so I just want to say, it does take a while to have that collected look. And I love to shop at antique stores. And so I found, I have found so many great things since I've moved to Mississippi. There's some really great antique stores all around here. And almost every time I go, I find something fun. But I have like an old picture and some bone inlay. And this was a piece that I found at our local art festival. And even one of my obsessions is little spoons. I've always loved little spoons. You can use them for caviar, sugar, whatever. And so I'll collect those when I find them. And back to acrylic, which I love. You can take something as simple as an acrylic box that you can find on Amazon and put your little trinkets. And that's just a way to make it feel special and kind of make it feel intentional. And then another thing, I love to collect wood carved animals. So I actually, on the other side, I have some wood carved birds, but I found this turtle and it reminded me of growing up at the beach, a little sea turtle. And so I thought it was just really fun. And so now he has a little home in my bookshelf. I found these awesome wicker urns that I love and placed them on some great acrylic bases. And the thing I like about that is it still lets the light permeate through the room. It doesn't block it out. And I'll usually dress these up seasonally, so I can do orchids or whatever, depending on the season. And so for Christmas, I just decided to do some really great sprays of magnolia. And then I just took some wreaths that are something I used in the past and put them as the base just to add in, the berries and some of the fun things that included. And then I love these chairs. They're usually in front of our mantle, but for all the Christmas gifts and everything, I've just pushed them over here. And you'll notice I like a lot of Asian antiques too. And so I found these, and they were from a historic home actually, where we moved from, Roswell, Georgia. And so I picked those up and then just popped a fun little modern fabric on top, and love the way that they push the space. And one of the nice things about having little chairs is you can pull them in to have more people for conversation. So I think it's great to always have an extra set of 2 chairs on hand for when you're hosting. My home style is somewhat traditional, but with some modern mix, and I like to infuse a lot of different styles. I also like to say that I'm a Southern designer, which means that I basically have definitely studied a lot of what makes Southern interior design. So you'll see lots of natural, like wicker, and also I grew up on the Florida Gulf Coast. And so I love little nods to that, whether it's with colors that I use or little pieces of coral and things like that. So I definitely keep my roots, and a lot of my design style tells a story about who I am as well. My love of interior design started actually when I was a kid, and I couldn't even remember if that was true. And then my husband was digging through a box of mine that my mom had kept, and we actually found that I had made a little card, a business card that I passed out to neighbors that said Entryway design. I didn't even spell it correctly. So I loved it since I was little. And I think part of that was simply because when I would go to my grandmother's house, she was definitely also a Southern maximalist. And her house always made a really big impact on me, down to the crisp linens that she would use. And she always loved to dress the table. And so she's a big part of my inspiration. So now we're up at the top of my staircase, and one of the things that I loved about this house when we first saw it and decided to buy it was how large and grand the top of the stairs was. I love the wood. This is actually heart of pine, so it kind of gives an antique look to the house. And then also we've got these really beautiful wrought iron banisters in the house as well. Once again, that give that kind of nod to the New Orleans style. And so what I've done is I've carried my garland all the way upstairs and tied in all those colors. And then I found these beautiful antique pieces of artwork at a little estate sale in Atlanta. And when I saw them, I was like, those are gonna be absolutely perfect for the top of my staircase. And so I had those installed, and then to kind of set them off in all this height and space that we have up here, also we took some beautiful magnolia garland and put some bells with those fun colors again, and a little bit of the garland that we just saw downstairs, and just popped those into place. And I think that it looks awesome when you're up here and looking down the hallway, and absolutely so charming at night. And then also I've got these really pretty big chests. So one of the things about this house is that our closet space, unfortunately, is limited. And so I've got lots of big pieces of furniture as storage for my husband and I, we both love clothes, we both love shoes. And so that's where a lot of our stuff lives, are in these in common spaces like upstairs. But it works great for us, and it's been a great solution. And then also to kind of play up the height, I took these modern mirrors. So one of the things that I love to do when I'm decorating is mix antiques with modern pieces so that it all feels really fresh and interesting. And so these are a little bit more on the modern side. Same with the lamps. And they kind of reminded me of like a swanky French hotel. So I love the way that they look. And even not during the holiday season, I'll put candles out here and different things to make this space feel really cool when you walk up the steps. And I carried some of the ornaments from downstairs and had this gorgeous little arrangement done. Just took a little pedestal and some florist foam and stuck, one of the things about your garland is as you're decorating, little pieces fall off. Don't throw those away. You can hang on to them and stick them into floral foam and have an arrangement. And just a couple of sprays too can make something, one man's trash, another person's treasure, with a really gorgeous little arrangement like this. And this little wreath here is a brooch wreath that I got a couple years ago, and I loved the way it looked. It was a little small for on top of the mirrors, so what we did is we popped a cedar wreath behind it just to give it a little bit more fluff. And once again, layering things is a great way that you can add some bulk to your Christmas decor. So even if you think that something isn't working for your space, I'm sure that you can always find a way that you can kind of blend to make sure that they work. So we're in my primary bedroom, and this space has really tall ceilings. And so a canopy bed was something that I always really wanted. And once we finally got this house, I knew it was finally going to become a reality. So I found this actually at an outlet, and it was the first piece that I actually purchased for this house, and I've absolutely loved it. And so for the holidays, what I decided to do was just take a really simple garland and drape it down and pop a little bit of color on the back. And over time, once the canopy got in here, it kind of took up a lot of space on the wall. And so I decided to get some smaller nightstands. And I found these actually on Facebook Marketplace. And they're Italian wood, hand inlaid. They're absolutely gorgeous. This person did not know what he had. And so I got these, and then decided that I wanted also a very traditional lamp in here. And so I found these gorgeous antique alabaster lamps and then popped a custom shade on top. One of the things you'll see throughout my house is I'm a really big fan of custom lampshades, because not only can they kind of give the look that you're hoping for your lamp, but also depending on what color that you pick and what pattern, they can cast the right glow that you want for the space. And so when I very first started on this room, I knew that I wanted it to feel kind of like the Ritz-Carlton, like a beautiful hotel room that was kind of Parisian. And so I started layering in accents that to me kind of gave that feel. And the first thing that I did, this room was actually dark brown. And I used to be white everywhere. Every single house I had before this, I did lots of white and cream and not a lot of color. And so I've experimented with this house, which has been really fun, but blue is my favorite color. And when I saw this wallpaper from Schumacher, I knew it was right for the space. And because I didn't want to put too much wallpaper everywhere and have it feel busy, I decided to panel it out. And so what we did for the smaller ones is we made the panels small enough to where we could fit the full pattern inside, and then centered it on the back wall. And what I think that did is it just kind of broke up these really big walls, and it kind of quieted the pattern. Even though it is a quiet pattern already, I just think that breaking things up kind of helps it to feel softer. And so I love the way that it came out. And then I actually just recently had these made, and I love the colors. One of the things that I really like is a Dutch Euro. They're bigger pillows. I'm someone who works from home, and what I love about these is that they're like the perfect size for your back if you're working on your laptop or watching a movie at night. So I really love a Dutch Euro. And another thing that I really love are these big bolster pillows. I have these in every single one of my bedrooms in a different color, and partially it's because I live with, a former football player who can't stand having to take 100 pillows off the bed. So this is an easy way that you can really pick it up. It's not heavy. You can throw it into the closet. It's foam on the inside, but it still looks great, and it's not something that's, gonna break your back to take off the bed. And then on the other side of the room, I have a little reading kind of set up. We've got a lot of windows in this house, which is beautiful, and I love it for natural light, but it does not insulate well. And so in the South, we have harsh seasons. We have really hot summers and really cold winters. And so I keep a fan in every room. I know that's a decorator faux pas, but I have to. It gets to be like over 100 degrees in the summertime, and my husband runs hot anyways, and frankly, so do I. So sorry, we're keeping the fans. That's just a Southern rule. And so the other thing that I added in here for the winter months is this fireplace. It's actually electric, and it was the chicest electric fireplace I had ever seen. I found it online, and that itself is the fireplace, but it came with this really beautiful mantle that had this dental molding, and I thought it was so gorgeous. And so it looks great, and it adds so much to the space, and it really warms it up in the winter. And I've just been super pleased with it. And then I have a frame TV in here. My husband and I were on the fence for years about having a television in the bedroom, and we do host people a lot, and typically I don't like to put TVs in bedrooms because it can disturb other guests. If there's someone who's watching a movie late and someone else is trying to sleep, that's really frustrating. And so in the past, I've not done that, but for our own personal bedroom, I decided that I did want something where I could kick back when it's football season, and he wants to watch game day from sunup till sundown. I need a break. And so I come up here and watch whatever reality TV series I'm into at the time. And the other thing that I recently added, these chairs were actually kind of like a toss away at an antique, really it was more like a flea market. I found these, they actually had a fan back at first. They were like that 80s, everyone's grandma who had a beach house or condo. I grew up at the beach, remember? Had these fan coral backs, and I bought them just because I loved how little they were. And so I knew that they would fit into a bedroom eventually. And so I hung on to them for about 4 years before I had a place that I wanted to put them. And I had my upholsterer, he's incredible, in Atlanta, and we just completely reconstructed the design of it, but the frame was actually cedar. And so it's nice to sometimes hang on to things that your grandmother had, because if you keep them and you recover them, you can actually find that the frame might be a lot more solid than what's out there today. And so that's one of the things that I love about antique shopping, is that the quality of your pieces is still very good. And then I found this quilt. This is something I've recently started to collect, our quilts. We didn't really have anyone in the family that did that as a hobby, even though that is a very Southern thing to do for grandmas. And so I started collecting them, and I do realize some quilts come with an odor or some marks, so it actually has been a little bit of a challenge to find them that are in really good quality and don't have that odor. However, I will say that there are some really great detergents that you can find for old quilts that will remove that fragrance and also remove the yellow from a quilt. You can go on Amazon and find it, and it works wonders. I've used it on a lot of pieces and it's really rescued them, and now this is like one of my favorite pieces. This piece at the front of my bedroom is a French antique, and it's a little secretary. There's a lot of stuff hidden in here. And once I got this into the spot, I found this gorgeous lamp that I loved, the crystal, it's kind of glam. And then I took my old veil fabric from my wedding and I turned it into a lampshade. And that way it's not something that's just sitting in a closet, hanging around. It's a way that I could actually integrate that piece of our wedding day into our bedroom. And I love the way that it turned out, and it casts a really pretty glow in here. Welcome to my guest room. So since we live in a college town, you'd be real surprised at how many people have come out of the woodwork to want to come and stay for a game day weekend. So we have had a lot of visitors since we moved here. Obviously, we went to Ole Miss, and so a lot of our old friends from college, when there's a big game weekend, whether it's baseball season or football, they want to come and stay with us. So we do host people a lot, and especially during the holidays. And so when I started with this room, I wanted it to feel really warm and swanky and moody and just have like a cool vibe. And so since this room doesn't have a lot of natural sunlight, for people who do like to sleep in or maybe drink a little too much, it's great because it's really dark. And so we just went ahead and kind of put some really deep drapes on the back that have a lot of lining, so it does not get bright in here at all. It's like a little cave, and it's great. And people actually gravitate to this room because they get really good sleep in here. And so my recommendation is, if you are hosting people for the holiday, make sure to sleep in your guest room to make sure that it's comfortable, because there are little nuances like lighting that really matter, and your bedding. And so this bed is like a big marshmallow. I love it. And back to the Dutch Euros, these are so great because they're really easy to pull off the bed. And once again, they're so big that they're great to lean up against. And I've also gotten this really beautiful faux bois velvet that I did as a bolster in here. And I love the way that the purple and the brown complement each other. And our house actually has exposed wood doors, which is really beautiful. And so I just wanted to kind of push that brown around the room from the doors so that they all worked really well together. And then another thing about your bedding in a guest room is that you want to have options for your guests. So one of the things that I do is I'll always include 2 sleeping pillows. One of them is firm and one of them is soft. And then also be aware people have allergies. So you may see if goose feather or something like that is something that they're allergic to and opt for down. So one of the things that I love is somewhere for your guests to be able to put their bag, or maybe if they brought like a jacket, if you have like a wedding event that they're going to. This is a valet. I think I got it for $20. You can find these all the time. Facebook Marketplace has them. Antique stores have them. They're everywhere, begging to be used. And so what I'll typically do is put a robe on here for my guests. But for the holiday season, I thought it'd be fun to pop like a little sweater on here, a tacky Christmas sweater, just so that it feels festive. And once again, those little nods that show that you cared about someone and you thought about a way that they would feel welcome is a really great way to entertain your guests. And I'm telling you, please, please, this holiday season, have a luggage rack for your guests. One of the things that happened to me one season, I was staying at a house and there was nowhere for me to put my bag elevated. And what happened was that night, it was really dark, just like it gets in this room. And I was making my way to the bathroom, didn't see my bag in the floor, fell over it and knocked my whole face into the nightstand. And I was so bruised the next day and terrified from there on out to go to the bathroom. So I highly encourage that you have something for someone to put their bags on when they come and stay with you, so that you can avoid some situations like that. And as far as just like the design of this room, when I started with this mauve color, my husband thought it was purple. And of course, one of our rival schools is purple. So he was like, I don't want a purple room in my house. And I was like, it's mauve, chill. So we painted it this mauve color, and it takes on such a beautiful glow throughout the day. And back to that thing about lampshades. So these are pink purple, they're from Foyer, they're gorgeous. I just recently got them. And they just cast such a pretty glow in the room when you have them on. They kind of warm up the walls. And so that's one of those things that I love to do to a space, is just add that extra little element that can help your color tones feel the way that you want them to. And then I usually do a little floral arrangement in my guest rooms too. And this holiday season, I'm incorporating all kinds of fun colors. And so I wanted to do pinks and purples in here. My art collection that I've been working on, I recently acquired this piece, and I think it's so fun. It's a parrot. And when I saw it, I thought that the colors just matched this room so well, and they kind of pulled those pinks that I'm kind of starting to work into the space. And it's an oil painting, so it's really thick and beautiful. And I also like to have a reading space if I can swing it in a room. And so I found this really beautiful chair in Atlanta, and it's actually got hide, and these are supposed to look like elk horns. They're faux. It's also fun to have a little welcome gift if you want for your guests. It could be something as simple as some warm socks, but just something that once again shows that you cared about them and that they're welcome at your house. All right, let's take you to my other guest room, which everyone says is their favorite. All right, so welcome to my blue guest room. I love this space, and so do all of my guests. And one of the things that I wanted to do, I knew in one room of my house, was really embrace traditional Southern interiors. So I actually did a lot of research about this room as I was getting started on it. And all the wall moldings that I've added to each one of these bedrooms was not there prior. And all the rooms were originally different shades of browns and cream tones that were obviously very popular in the early 2000s design. And so you can imagine the contrast when I painted this ultra bright cornflower blue color. When I first walked in here, I was nervous. I was like, what have I done? This is way too pigmented. I'm never going to be able to make this work. But I had done it. And I slept in here at the time. So when we were first moving into this house, I painted all the rooms first, and I did all the wall molding first before I moved any furniture or bought anything. And so I actually slept in this room on an air mattress for like 2 months while we were in the process of moving. And as I stayed there, even though I was thinking about changing it, the color that this took on during the day and during the night was so beautiful that I thought I'd be a fool to change this color because the way that it captures the light is so pretty and it's so relaxing. And it's called Respite by Sherwin-Williams. And so once I realized I really did love the color, I realized I had to make it work. And so I had to get a lot of fabric samples to make sure that the colors all worked in this space. So the first one that I found that I thought highlighted it really great was this canopy fabric from Schumacher. And it kind of helped make this blue feel more traditional than it may have lended itself to before. This color to me is a little modern because it's so bright. And so once I blended in that cornflower of the valance, it really took on a whole new look. And this is actually something I've had for years and years and years. And it worked well in this space. And so I just kept it and then decided to work on my bedding. And so I found these green. And one of my favorite color matches in design is blue and green. I love the way that it looks. And I heard a designer once say that if you work with colors that are already in nature that work well together, you'll never have a problem mixing things in interior design. And I think that that's such a good tip. And so, for example, this has a lot of really beautiful flowers. This is a gorgeous chintz, also super traditional. And so I grabbed this chintz fabric first because I knew it went so great with my check. And then I just kind of pulled colors out of here. So I found this really pretty blue accent. I don't usually put monograms in guest bedrooms, although if you wanted to just do your last name as a monogram, I think that'd be fine. But I do like it to feel more like it's their space when they're here. So I usually try to keep monograms out of the bedroom or very minimal. And so this green, I pulled it in from this, and it really just kind of brought everything to life. And these are my favorite thing. Once again, they are not electrified in the sense that I had an electrician come. This little gold beam here covers a cord, and then it's tucked behind. So these actually didn't have to get wired into the wall, and they work great as a little reading light when people come and stay here overnight. So when I was going to select nightstands for this space, I knew I wanted something that would kind of ground all this color. And so a really great way to do that is to infuse a natural brown, and that really helps kind of play down all this brightness that I've got going on in here. And I love bamboo. I've become a sucker for it, that and rattan and wicker. And so I found these, and one of the things I like about them is not only the height is really great, but they do have a little drawer. So if you need to tuck away Kleenex or whatever for your guests, the Wi-Fi password, you can put it right away. I think it's nice to have a little bit of storage where you can. And then I found these really cute, sweet inlay lamps, and I loved the ruffle. And this room's kind of feminine, but I think it's fun and it's playful. And so because this was so feminine, I decided to also add in a little scalloped shade, and these are also custom. And I love the glow of just a plain white shade, especially we've got so much going on in here that this part needed to be a little quiet. So this is just enough light, and you've obviously got two choices in here, which is really great for when you're staying. And then when I was picking my floral for the room, one of the things I like to do is also work in colors that aren't necessarily in the space, but that just kind of liven things up like I did in my dining room. And so I found these really cute sweet peas and just some really pretty, beautiful lighter tones, even worked some mint in here. And it just kind of helps everything come to life when you use a color that you're not already using in this space when you're doing your floral arrangements. And then to add a little bit of pizzazz, I found this super fun ball garland at a local store here, and I just thought it was happy. And so I just laid it across the top, super simple, and then just took a little boxwood wreath and popped it on top of there with a nail. And you know, something as simple as that can go ahead and take your guest room to where it feels festive. And I just think it's really easy, and you don't have to overdo it. This piece was given to me by my good friend Daniel, and for a discount. And I love the way that it looks. This was the first of his floral series, and he uses a lot of really heavy oil paint. And so if you look close, in each one of these brush strokes is multiple colors of paint that he's blended. And he has a huge palette that he works with, and he pops them on top of each other, and he can keep reworking with it since it is oil. And in fact, this took like almost half a year to dry. I actually hung it while it was wet, which was a little nerve-wracking. I was like, please don't fall. But that's a nice thing about oil paint that I really love, and it really brought this room to life with these big walls that I have. And another thing that I really like in a guest room, outside of a chair, is a little place to do your makeup and hair. And so since I had a little bit more space over here, I put a desk, and there are outlets down here. So it's really a great place for someone who's getting ready for an event to be able to come over here and do their hair and makeup. And you got a lot of natural light, which is great, and a comfy little bench. And I usually pop a little blanket on the side for if anyone needs it while they're cuddling up at night. And the last thing that I just want to point out in this room are my draperies that I just got done. These are balloon shades, and I would have never thought that I would put this in a house originally, just because they are very traditional. And when I was finishing this room, I just thought it still needed something that could carry all the pizzazz that I have going on in the bed. And so I found this gorgeous linen fabric that's the same color as the walls. And that's one of my tricks, is I usually try to take the color on the wall and match it to the shade, because it kind of helps everything feel like an extension of the wall, and it doesn't break up the space to where it feels smaller. So that's a great little way to work your colors in and make the space feel bigger. And then I added this fun pom-pom trim that I thought was just really cute and feminine, and it just made this space feel really intentional and whimsical and traditional, which is kind of what I was looking for. And I really do think if you can work it in, having something living in a room just makes you feel better. So I found this gorgeous, I love a fiddly fern. I love ferns in general. I found this at a local store and popped it in a super cute little moss vase. But just having a little green, having something living, just makes the space feel good. And you'll notice it once you work it into a room. And the last thing that I love to use is a bed tray. And these are great for if you want your guests to feel comfortable on a weekend. You can pop some magazines in here, bring them some coffee up. They get to enjoy their space. I think one of the things about having guests or being a guest is that sometimes you kind of feel pressure to always be on and around the people that you're staying with or the people that you're hosting. And so doing this gives them a nod that they can have some quiet time. And I think it's a really great way to make your guests feel comfortable and feel like they can have some quiet to themselves when they're staying at your house. What home means to me is telling your story and making sure that you're including a lot of things that are from your past, whether it's from somewhere that you grew up or a member of your family, keeping heirlooms. All these little touches are what makes your home your home. It doesn't always have to look like it's a stage that nobody can touch. It should always be something that's comfortable and easy and inviting and makes people want to stick around.
Merry Christmas!
Today we're back at Squirrel Hollow, the stunning Georgia home of best-selling novelist Mary Kay Andrews. But in this episode, the halls are fully decked for the holiday season. Mary Kay walks us through her cherished collection of Christmas ornaments and meaningful mementos collected over the years. She's joined by her friend and interior designer Clay Snyder, and together they reveal how this year's festive magic came to life. To watch Mary Kay's full home tour ad-free, where she shares more about her holiday traditions, scan the QR code on screen or visit homeworthyplus.com. For access to all of our latest episodes ad-free and to receive other exclusive membership perks.
Hi, Homeworthy. Mary Kay Andrews here. Welcome back to my house, Squirrel Hollow. We're all decorated for the holidays. Come on in. I can't wait for you to see what we've done.
This Christmas, Homeworthy invites you into a season of wonder. Over the next 25 days, we're stepping into homes that sparkle with holiday cheer, where garlands tumble from mantels, ornaments hang like tiny treasures, and every corner comes alive with joy, merriment, and the spirit of the season.
And I don't know how many ornaments are on the tree. Last year I got 1,400 on, and they were made all over the world. There were ones made in America, Poland, Italy, Japan, just a wide variety, and I love them all.
We'll visit homes where traditions are cherished, where beauty is made by hand, and where rituals become memories that last a lifetime.
We make about 400 of these rolls every year, and on Christmas Eve, our family delivers them to certain families within the area, and our kids get to participate in choosing who gets them.
From quiet moments by the fire to happy gatherings around the table, we're celebrating the way the holidays transform our spaces and fill them with magic.
We do quite a dressy table because it's Christmas and it's a party and you want it to feel special, but you also, it's nice to make the table a little bit kind of imperfect, a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I want people to feel at a party in my home as if they're kind of wearing a ball gown but going barefoot. You know, it's that kind of high-low moment, the kind of specialness, but also the coziness of being really comfortable.
So pour something warm, settle in, and join us for Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas, a season-long celebration of holiday magic. To watch Homeworthy's entire Christmas collection ad-free, visit homeworthyplus.com or scan the QR code on screen. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hey everybody, Mary Kay Andrews here. Welcome to Squirrel Hollow, our home over the holidays. And a little bit about me. I am a full-time novelist, New York Times bestselling novelist, and a part-time decorator in denial. I have for years said that my style is sort of like if Ralph Lauren got locked in a 1950s Woolworths 5 and dime. So vintage and blue and white, because that's my jam, and also plaid. I'm mad for plaid and always have been. The house year-round has red and white and blue, and then we just amp it up and throw in a lot of vintage Christmas over the holidays. Tom and I got married Thanksgiving weekend 49 years ago and moved into our first little apartment and had nothing, no Christmas anything. So I started collecting then, and I buy things at estate sales, sometimes thrift stores. Oh, Ivy wants to come in and say hi. Ivy, come here, come here. Do you want to say hi? People give me things. My sister-in-law likes to junk. I go to the Scott Antique Market sometimes and buy things, but it comes from everywhere. I'm not really a theme person. My theme is overdo it. You know, just enough is not enough. Too much is barely enough. I've changed things around a little bit this year because we rejiggered the living room a little bit. I have a new television cabinet, and so, but usually the same stuff goes in the same spots. I'm sort of a traditionalist that way. Hey everybody, welcome to the entry hall at Squirrel Hollow. And this is Clay Snyder. He is my designer, my junk enabler. He's the voice that tells me no. He's my husband. And he is my partner in crime for a lot of my junking adventures. So actually, when we bought this house, I got him to come over before we made an offer, right? Yeah. And to say, yeah, you can make this work. So he's been in on this from the very beginning.
I'm a buyer of things just like she is, and so I buy things impulsively sometimes, but I used to have a sale every couple of years to sort of get rid of my hoard, and I had a sale at my house, and I had a box of magazines, or I used to get tons of design magazines, home magazines, and I had them for sale for $1 a piece just to get rid of them because I had stacks of them. And the next day I get a phone call from this random woman that says, I was at your sale yesterday and I bought a bunch of stuff and I love your taste, I love your house, I love your taste, and I bought some magazines and it had your address on it and I've stalked you and now I want to see if I could hire you to work for me. And so that was, I don't even know how many, close to 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 houses ago.
So we quickly became great friends and enablers of each other's.
And junk buddies, because you didn't really do estate sales before, did you?
I didn't know about, I did know about estate sales, but I was more going to antique markets and things. And so she turned me on to estate sales. And so since then I've become a total addict with her. So we definitely hit up every estate sale in Atlanta or wherever we're traveling.
And the dealers know us.
Very much so.
And sometimes that's a good thing. And then sometimes it's not such a good thing. But sometimes the dealers will text one or both of us and say, I have something that I know you guys are going to like. So
they know that we both have, people ask us all the time what we're looking for, and neither one of us ever know because our taste is so broad in what we're looking for that we don't know what we're looking for.
Right, yeah.
So but the dealer, a lot of the dealers know there's specific things like vintage holiday or blue and white or something of that nature that we both love.
Yeah. So and vintage Christmas, they know I love vintage Christmas. The table here, actually we bought the table with the house, and this tablecloth, we had this house on the tour of homes. I think the first year we bought it, we've been in this house, 12, 15 years. It was on deadline for a book, really over deadline. but we were also doing the Christmas tour of homes in our neighborhood. And I had this idea to make a tablecloth out of cut up vintage stadium blankets. So, and I'm a terrible seamstress. So I had bought all these like moth-eaten, threadbare plaid stadium blankets, and I was sewing them together. And I kept posting on social media about it, and my publishing team was going insane, saying, "Stop messing with this stuff." So anyway, that's my tablecloth of many colors. My tea party Christmas tree, that was Clay's idea, and a dear friend of mine gave me most of those little blue and white vintage children's tea set pieces. So we just wrapped them up and threw them on there.
It's just the entry table, like to be a little like a nod to what's going to happen in the rest of the house. So it's a little vintage, a little sparkle, a lot of blue and white, which is throughout the house. So that's where the blue and white tree, the theme, obviously came from the rest of the house.
The console, those chests over there, the chinoiserie chests, I bought these at an estate sale. I saw the pictures of them online, and I knew the woman, the dealer doing the sale. And so I messaged her before the sale started, and I said, "Oh my gosh, how much are those chests?" And she told me, and I was like, no, I can't afford those. But then I signed a new book contract, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe I can afford them. But now the mirrors are new.
Well, they're not new, but we're new to us. But I found them on Facebook Marketplace. We've been looking for years, I guess, for something to go with these chests, because there were beautiful mirrors with the chests when they were sold at the estate sale we went to, but she didn't want to get them. So then it took us years to find something to replace them. So I found them on Facebook Marketplace near Noonan, Georgia, and they are not a pair, but we use them as a pair, and we think they're awesome.
Yeah, I don't like things too matchy-matchy, as you can tell. And the Santa here, he is, I bought a cutout online, literally a piece of paper that you unroll. And then Tom glued it down to a piece of plywood, sort of decoupaged it, cut it out, and painted the edges of it black. And there's a stand on the back. And I think he is a copy of the Coca-Cola Santa. But I'm sure the Coca-Cola Santa is trademarked, so he's a copy. The stuff on top of the chest is just part of my vintage Christmas hoard. I've been buying vintage Christmas wherever I find it for more than 4 decades, and I love the fact that some of the things have the original price. Like this was from Woolworths, and it was on quick sale for 40 cents. Now, I don't know where you can buy anything for 40 cents anymore. I like the original packaging, and the original graphics, I think, are so much more fun than graphics for modern day products. They take more time.
I know. Well, I said, well, who else has got like old packaging? But they're all displayed in the original boxes. So it's like 10 cents and things. So it just adds a little fun to it.
And the Santa was a gift from my sister-in-law, and I just found it again. And I just took his beard is tragically coming apart. And then these beaded ornaments I bought in an estate sale a couple years ago. There were dozens of them. They're all hand done with sequins and straight pins. And I can't imagine the hours and hours she must have spent doing them. And then, of course, her family sold them in an estate sale. But fortunately, I happened along and picked them up.
It's the right, like vintage sparkle.
Yeah. We have neighbors who are goldsmiths and jewelers. And every year for Christmas, since we've known them, and it's been, 25 or 30 years, they make a Christmas tree ornament. They design it themselves and make it. Some of them are more elaborate than others, and then they give them to their longtime friends. So everything on here, everything is copper and brass, and it's an original design, and some of them are just so beautiful and intricate. There's this one is a clock with a bird coming out of it. There's a grandfather clock over here. A Christmas card that the envelope opens. There's a little Christmas light pole. There's some designs that their grandchildren made, and their grandchildren are now in college. So it's really just sort of a sweet thing, and we look forward every year to the doorbell ringing and Tim and Janet bringing us the Shoemaker Christmas ornament for the year. And they all have the year on them. The mantel is all clay. I mean, I had an idea about, oh, we'll do greenery and we'll do magnolia and holly and cedar from the yard. My son works on a privately owned hunting reservation in Southwest Georgia. So he hunts all that kind of stuff. Then Clay kind of took it and ran with it. And you have to tell them about the detail on the corners, Clay.
We were recently at an estate sale, and it was for the Koch family. But anyway, they had a great estate sale, and there was a garage, and it was like the garage was part of the sale, but not really. And there were these two fabulous pheasant pelts, carcasses, whatever. And they were just hanging in the corner covered in dust. And I was like, I want those, because I had a vision for them. I'm like, we're using those for Christmas. And so that's where the whole thing came from. So there's
He had to like unnail them from the wall.
They'd been there for years and years. So that's where the whole thing from this came from, was these two fabulous pheasants. I think they're fabulous. And then of course the greenery, and then I've got some other pheasants over there, but these are the real meal deal. And of course the greenery that most of it is from her yard.
And the Staffordshire dogs, those are kind of a new addition. You were at the sale, right? One of us was there, and they were reduced. It was the last day of the sale. Clay happened to be there. The dealer is a friend. And I had said to him, hey, see if these are big Staffordshire dogs. See if those Staffordshire dogs are still there. And they were, and got them for a great price. And then the smaller Staffordshire dogs, my same friend Jackie that's gifted me so many things in the house, she was closing out her late brother's antique business, his storage shed. And she had boxes and boxes of stuff. And when she saw something she thought I might like, she'd just pitch it in a box. And so over the summer, I went down there, and actually we were gathering silver candlesticks because my son got married in our backyard, and we had 50, 60 silver candlesticks. Yeah, they got married in the backyard. So these were mixed in with the silver candlesticks. We always do a live tree. We like a Fraser fir. Underneath of it, we've got, for years, I collected vintage tin plaid transferware, bread baskets, picnic baskets, thermoses, all that kind of stuff. And so it's too early for me to have Christmas shop, so we stuck all that stuff under there. And the ornaments are mostly vintage Shiny Brights that I've been buying for years and years and years and years. We did have one year we were on Christmas tour, and it was the morning of the tour, and my husband was putting the Christmas tree up in our sunroom, and neighbors were coming over to check to see if we needed anything. And just as they were walking up the steps, Tom had wired the Christmas tree to the wall, but something happened. And as they were walking up in slow motion, the tree fell. And I don't know how many dozens of my vintage Shiny Brights I lost that shattered. And they still tease us about walking up at the exact wrong time, because there could have been some bad words. There were a few bad words that were said. And the painting over there, I love antique portraits, and I tell people that is my great, great, great cousin Honoria, Honoria, and I have a story made up for her. It's all made up, it's not true. And so I have a collection of portraits, and I especially like portraits of women with attitude. So Honoria has attitude. Tom was a student at Georgia Tech, and we were penniless. I was working as a newspaper reporter. We had no money. I went to a craft sale on the Tech campus, and somebody had made that in like a pottery class or something. So that is always a reminder for me of our Tech days, because we lived on the Tech campus when he was in school there. And the Staffordshire lamps are also something new. Clay found those at an estate sale and bargained down the price. This chest, this pine, it's a carpenter's chest, and it has trays inside for carpenter's tools. And that was one of the first pieces I bought. I was I was freelancing as a journalist, and I did a freelance piece, maybe for the New York Times, and I was so excited about that. I wanted to take that money and use it on something that I would always think about. So this is what I bought. Until yesterday, this concrete deer was out in our front yard. And we decided we needed something for this tabletop. So the deer came inside out of the cold, and just more of my vintage Scotch plaid stuff and some greenery. This table I bought at, I think I bought it at an estate sale. And what I like about it is it's not so formal, because we're not formal people. And I just sort of think it's unexpected to see a table with a wicker base and a oak top. The sofas they're all slip covered. Everything in here is slip covered because we have bad dogs. You saw Ivy is the good dog, and they believe that there's no place they can't be. So all of that is slip covered. The wreath over the window over there is something we pieced together. The angel with the trumpet we found at a going out of business sale for a very well-known Atlanta antique dealer. And then I already had the oval pine frame that I'd used for something else. And so that was actually the angel was probably a French trade sign, right? Yeah, so we just wired it onto the oval pine frame. I love antique quilts, so collected some Christmas quilts and the blue and white quilts and more of my plaid stadium blankets that I've collected over the years. We love to watch TV, and everybody comes in and snuggles under blankets. My grandkids come over, and they hang out, and their friends come over and hang out, which we love. We wanted to bring in some sparkle, so we sort of corralled some of the extra beaded ornaments. These are Christopher Radko ornaments, which are very collectible. And we just shoved them in there with some vintage glass beading, and just to give it a pop of color and a pop of Christmas. The goose decoy I bought at an estate sale, and he stays there year round, but at Christmas he gets a plaid scarf. I've been in the same book club for over 30 years, and so I always host the Christmas book club party here. And everybody looks forward to it. Everybody brings a book to swap with everybody else in the book club, and we play a silly dice game, and I get my publisher to send new books so everybody can grab a new book to read. And we do Christmas Eve. We go to the children's mass at 6 o'clock and come back and do what my mother-in-law always used to do. She would always have a ham after we'd get back in the day from midnight mass. And then Christmas Eve, everybody can open. My grandkids are here, and my son and daughter-in-law, and my niece usually. Everybody can open one Christmas gift. You know, sometimes if I can talk everybody into it, we do, my favorite Christmas movie is White Christmas. Even if nobody else will watch it, I'll curl up on the sofa in my Christmas jammies and with a glass of wine, and I'll watch my favorite Christmas movie, which is White Christmas. I think because we probably have the roomiest house, and my grown nephews and nieces and their family come, and lots of times we'll have somebody who's at loose ends over the holidays. So my mom, my parents, and my in-laws always had, because we were both from big families. I'm the second oldest of five. Tom is the oldest of five. Both of our families had an open door policy. Come on in, you know, there's always room at the table. This is again, well, we collaborated on this. Yeah, the chandeliers. This is the second house we've had the chandeliers in. They're red toll, and the greenery is mostly from the backyard. The place settings are plaid chargers and my white Pottery Barn dinner plates with blue and white transferware luncheon plates on top, and then the dessert plates are from Home Goods. And the pound cake is from my pound cake recipe that I always make. And they were almost a casualty because last night when we were starting to set the table, we stupidly started putting the pound cakes out, and Tater was this close.
Tater's one of the dogs.
Yeah, Tater is not my grandchild. Tater is our dog, the bad dog, and he was this close to eating a pound cake, but he got banished, and we put the pound cakes away until right before the shoot. And the hurricanes actually came from clay, and the centerpiece is just poinsettias and maidenhair fern in another silver punch bowl that I got at a estate sale. Estate sales are great places to buy punch bowls because people don't make punch and serve punch anymore. So if you go to a good Meemaw sale, you can almost always see lots of times a crystal punch bowl or cut glass, but this one is a silver plate. And then the pheasants were from another estate sale, right?
Well, a lot of this is there again. It's carrying over the themes. I mean, not really a theme, but
Right.
wildlife. And so we've got antlers and pheasants and with dogs over here or whatever. But it's all like stuff from her just collection.
My
stuff.
hoard. And the Christmas crackers, we've been doing Christmas crackers. My sister married a Brit. And so I guess when she married Mick, we adopted the Christmas cracker tradition. And so everybody loves that, to have their own Christmas cracker, to pop it open, wear the stupid hat at Christmas dinner. The napkins, I love buying table linens at estate sales. They're always inexpensive. These are really nice damask dinner napkins, and I just had them monogrammed.
And a red monogram at Christmas.
Yeah, a red monogram at Christmas. And then the mantle, this is all clay. This is
all stuff from her. We started out with just plain garland, just cheapy garland, and then we mixed in, just your cheap garland, whatever, and then we mixed in magnolia from her yard, and then also Tom, her husband, grew these amazing hydrangeas. Most of them are limelights, and he dried them, and so we had buckets and buckets of hydrangeas. So, why not use them? So we've got them. This kind of went over. Got out of control a little bit, but it looks pretty fabulous.
Yeah, and this is our great wall of china over here. We made, Clay and I made the wreath with the plates 3 or 4 years ago, I guess. But he womped it up extra womp. And that is a copper boiler that usually is by the other fireplace that holds firewood. This is not a functioning fireplace. So we just put the poinsettias in the boiler.
So we started out with just cheap, just basic garland from Home Depot or Target or Walmart or whatever here. And then you got these trees were from
Michael's.
From Michael's. And so these are just 3 foot or whatever, artificial tree. We put them in these crepe jardinières, but we made them, they were actual, tree, but we flattened them on one side so we could make them fit up here. But then I went back with the magnolia and just, shoved it in. Literally, nothing's wired in there. And then we went back with some other greenery and then all this awesome hydrangea. And then the same here. I also we found this amazing, on Amazon actually, garland that looks like cedar. And so it's mixed into here too. So all of this is, besides magnolia, is either fake or dried. So it's all, just great. But then Mary Kay loves ribbon. So that's all I've heard this whole week is ribbon, ribbon, ribbon. So we put this great, tartan plaid ribbon on here to give it the pop that it needed. So, but it's, pretty easy to do if you start out with artificial garland and just work your stuff in.
The tulip ears, I think this is the first time I've actually stuck tulips in them. That thing is smashed and then glued back together. And
balanced up there.
Yeah, a strong wind is going to take the whole thing down. And then the secretary was another piece that I bought at the Charlotte Metrolina Antique Show, which is no longer. And then I've been collecting vintage snowmen for forever. And So they get to, the snowmen hang out there for the holidays. And then these are some of my Christmas books. Blue Christmas, Santa Suit, Bright Lights, Big Christmas, and then Midnight Clear. I have another one, Christmas Bliss, and I couldn't find a copy of the book. So that's what that is. And this is a chair from an estate sale. And it was interesting, I bought the chair from the estate sale and just enough of this beautiful blue and white fabric, just enough to do this one seat cushion. So it felt like it was meant to be. And then these chairs I found on my neighbor's curb and had them recovered. So this is some more of the Amazon garland. Somebody on Instagram who was an influencer, said, "Oh, I always use this this fake cedar garland."
And it looks great. It feels weird, but it hangs great like natural cedar does. But natural cedar dries out really fast and makes a huge mess. So it looks very natural and great. And then we loves these fishing krills, so I'll every year put these here. And then there again, her husband Tom dried the hydrangeas, so we have those. And then our magnolia, you can't get any more southern than that, and more of our tartan plaid.
Yeah, and then the new thing that we just did, I've been collecting portraits, as I mentioned before. I love portraits of women with attitude. So I did have very lovely framed, matted, vintage bird prints on the staircase wall. And I had this idea to do like a portrait gallery. And so I had bought some and hoarded some, and then I had to get some from Clay. And you can look up there and see none of them really look like they're happy women. They look like they're up to something. They look like they, and I've named most of them. The woman in the blue dress, her name is Vera, and I bought her, I think, at the Portobello Road Antique Market in London 2 or 3 years ago. So she was sort of the inspiration for the wall of Shady Ladies. I think estate sales are a great place to buy art. I bought this at an antique market in California years and years ago when I was on book tour, and I carried it home in a suitcase. And then this I bought recently, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But this piece and this piece, Clay and I were at an estate sale, and the woman, the owner, had what I thought was a very talented painter, and they were not framed. So we bought ready-made frames off of Amazon because having something custom framed is so expensive. So we bought something slightly larger off of Amazon, and then Tom has a miter saw, and Tom basically cut the frames up and then put them back together to work for the art. This was where the original staircase for the house was. And so this shelf unit was here, and usually it holds all my cookbooks, but the cookbooks got evicted, and Santa and the elves took possession for the holidays. And I've been buying those for whenever I find them for years and years. My grandchildren think that the elves, these are knee hugger elves, they're called. And they're super creepy looking to my grandchildren, which makes me love them more. Welcome to the breakfast nook. This was originally the dining room of this house two remodels ago. So we use it as a breakfast room. This stores all my china and crystal, which I have a lot of. And then our bar, ice maker. We're bourbon drinkers, so there's a nice selection of bourbon there. Cut glass. I like to drink out of glass. I don't like to drink out of plastic. And then we set this up to sort of like a gingerbread making setup. Every year, our grandkids have friends who do a gingerbread making party. And these are actually Clay's bought they're like ceramic gingerbread houses that he bought at an estate sale, Clay? So yeah, just sort of informal. And the blue and white chairs have been different things at different houses before. And you'll notice I have antique rugs Oriental rugs all through the house because of dogs. The Oriental rugs don't really show the dirt, which is always a plus. And that's our English setter. That is a sign that, a trade sign that, again, my friend Jackie gave me, and we did a little research and we found out the paint is very faint on it, but it was done, you know how like Budweiser gives bars and liquor stores promotional items? This would have been a promotional item for a whiskey company. And my friend found it in her brother's, Jackie found it in her brother's stash. And then Tom built a frame around it because it's literally done on a sheet of tin. The wreath here, I had saved a photo out of a Martha Stewart Living Christmas issue. And of course, Martha's wreath looked way better than mine, but these are all repro Putz houses, P-U-T-Z, which German things from the 1920s. They're very collectible, but these are new. I bought online, and then I just stuck them on a cheap wreath form, hot glued on the houses with some bottle brush trees, and I kind of like it. It's not literally as great looking as I'm not Martha Stewart. The Welsh cupboard is a true antique. We bought it for an anniversary gift for each other from a dealer at Scott's Antique Market here in Atlanta. And then I've been collecting bottle brush trees for probably 40 years. Some of these are newer repro ones, but the ones that are really sad looking and falling apart are my favorites. I love the ones that still have, like this one. I mean, when you touch it, the bottle brush things come off. It's in a wood. You can tell the old ones have like a real wooden base. And lots of times they will have the original 10-cent Woolworths price tag on the bottom. And I do have some like that. Now this one, let's see. Oh, this guy. This, I think, is my favorite. He looks like Dr. Seuss created him. And I have a pair of these. So, and these have gotten really, collectible and expensive. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, the 25-cent price is in pencil on the side of the base. And that's a little wooden base with little mercury glass ornaments on it. And then it's mixed in with everything is mixed in with my blue and white. The tall lamps Clay gave me. Most of it is some more of that Amazon cedar wreathing, but we shoved up some cedar branches from my yard just to fill it out because I didn't really have as much. And that's the good thing, you can use fake stuff to start with, and then fill in with what you have. If you're lucky enough to live someplace where you have access to magnolias, cedar, cypress. We have holly and nandina in our yard, so we're lucky that we can go cut that. And the platter over the stove, I think I talked about in my last Homeworthy tour. I brought that back from an antique buying trip with my friend Beth from England, and I said, how am I going to get this in my suitcase? And her daughter, Rachel, is like the ninja Jenga packer of all time. So Rachel packed it into my carry-on, and I got it home intact. And the Santa thing is from a vintage shipping crate. So it's from Santa Paula, California, where a lot of citrus used to come from. And the cow is from a French butcher shop. We bought that at the same estate sale where we bought some other things. The wreaths are just Trader Joe. Trader Joe's used to have little boxwood wreaths, and they haven't had them in a couple years. I just wired on my miniature Santa. Those are actually, you would call them nut cups. I guess people would put them out at bridge parties, and you would put nuts in them for dainty ladies. And then my Santa mug collection, I was so excited. I just added 3 more Santa mugs for $1 a piece. And if you see the online prices for Santa mugs, I found some what was it, $40 for 3 Santa mugs. So I only buy them when I find them for like $1 or something. And those, you can tell they probably were put in the dishwasher. They were made in Japan, and so the paint, probably came off in the dishwasher. I don't care. I think to me that makes it something I like more. This is a same thing with these. This is a Fitz and Floyd cookie jar that the organizers, the first year we were on our neighborhood Christmas tour, the organizers gave me that as a gift for being on the tour. So I love to bring it out every year. And you can see my collection of white ironstone up there and on the end here. So this is really the hub of the house. This is where everybody hangs out. There's a wine cooler here. Everybody has a glass of wine here. This is my baking center over here. I bake my pound cakes. I usually bake between 25 and 30 pound cakes every year at Christmas, and they go to everybody on my publishing team gets a pound cake. And so when I sign a new book deal, I always talk about to my agent. I say, well, it's a 2-cake deal, meaning my editor's going to get 2 more cakes out of this new book deal. And these are all vintage Christmas postcards, holiday postcards that I picked up over the years. And cake plates, because I bake a lot of cakes. And that is a vintage top off a shipping crate. This is how the graphics are so beautiful and colorful. People don't do that anymore. But that's what makes me like that kind of stuff. And, my cookie cutters, the kids, bake cookies, and we bake cookies. This is my cookbook. You can tell how long ago we did this cookbook. My grandchildren in this picture, these are my grandkids. They are now 16 and 14. And we shot the cookbook on Tybee Island. We're in our beach house. And the photo stylist had these Christmas gifts wrapped up and said, okay, kids, here's your Christmas jammies. Put them on and open the gifts. And of course, it was August. And they were so pissed when there was nothing inside those packages. They still talk about it. And the wreath was one of the last things my mom gave me. My mom's been gone over 20 years, but she had friends who were antique dealers, and they went out and bought all this different stuff at like a Goodwill in St. Pete, and then wired it together on this wooden wheel. And then I added the fake deer head because, again, enough is never enough. All the women in my family were great cooks. And my grandmother, like so many Southern families, we would go to my grandmother's every Sunday for dinner, all the cousins, all the aunts and uncles. And so I learned to love cooking and love the love of family, having family together at the table. Really, I got from my grandmother's house. And, people would be sitting in lawn chairs. It was not fancy. She did not have fancy china. I never had a cloth napkin, I think, until I went to college. So the things that I like to do are, part of it is, I grew up with that. And then part of it is me wishing I had grown up with it. The holiday novels are just really pure fun. My full-length novels usually have a mystery wrapped up in them. Lots of times there's a body, a murder. And so these are not as dark as those. There's a romance, there's some Christmas, there's some fun. The first one, Blue Christmas, came out, at least I think 20 years ago. And my editor called me up and said, I want you to do a Christmas novella. And I'd never written one before. I didn't know how. And so I went away, and she said to me, I want it on my desk by Labor Day. So I went away down to Tybee Island where we have a beach house. At that time, we didn't have anything. So I rented a cottage from a friend, and I took my boom box. This is how long ago it was. And I had my favorite Christmas cassette, the Motown Christmas one, Phil Spector Presents Merry Christmas to You. And so it's July in this beach cottage, and I'm booming Christmas Baby Please Come Home. I have to get myself in the Christmas mood because I'm usually not, of course, not writing it at Christmas. And Blue Christmas did so well that I did Christmas Bliss with the same set of characters. And then a few years later, I had an idea for a Christmas book based on, I'm such a junker. Years ago, I bought an estate sale a beautiful vintage handmade velvet Santa suit. And I displayed it for a while, and then I think I finally got rid of it. But I had the idea to write a book about a woman who moves to the mountains of North Carolina to reinvent herself. And she finds this Santa suit in a box in a closet. And the things she discovers about that, the magical powers of that Santa suit kind of turn her life around in the community that she's in. And then 2 years ago, I did Bright Lights, Big Christmas. And that one was based, I had seen a story in the New York Times about a family from, I think they were from Maine. And every year, starting at Thanksgiving, they would take a load of Christmas trees. They didn't grow them themselves. They bought them wholesale, but they would live in a trailer in Tompkins Square Park in Greenwich Village. And the whole family, husband and wife, and their 3 kids, I think, two sons and a daughter, would live in this little tiny trailer over the holidays. And the people in the village would take them into their hearts and their homes and, bring them food and let them shower. And so that story, and I met the people that inspired that story. And I sort of, did my own takeoff on it. So that's Bright Lights, Big Christmas. And then last year, Amazon asked me to do a special Christmas short story. And that one is called Holiday Hideaway. Welcome to the Sunroom. This is really my spot. This was added onto the house probably 15 or 20 years ago. The 2 previous owners added it on. It wasn't conditioned space though. So when we bought it, we put in a splitter unit for heat and air, and then had insulated draperies made, really heavy insulated drapes. So I sit out here on the sofa and write. And Ivy, who you met earlier, loves to sit in this chair and keep me company. And if we close the doors, if we're trying not to, if they're muddy, we'll close the doors so the dogs can't get in here. And Ivy will stand at the doors and bark like, I want to get in there. This barn, I bought that in an estate sale in Savannah. It comes apart in 3 pieces. And then I bought the wooden farm animals on Etsy. And then the wreath was one of my first wreath making experiments. I just had been collecting bits and pieces of vintage Christmas and sat down with a glue gun and good intentions. And it's wonky. It's not perfect, but I don't care. I love it. So if we're in there in the kitchen cooking and screaming at each other, which is pretty frequently, everybody will sit out here and have a glass of wine, or the kids will sit out here and have a Coke or whatever. But then they can get quick access into the kitchen for when the cookies come out of the oven. So, and when we have just like other couples over, this is where we sort of start the evening, sitting in here, having a drink, chatting, and then, flow into the kitchen and into the dining room for dinner. And I thought about putting a television out here, but I don't want a television out here. I really like the peace and quiet of having it just, a cozy, and I like small spaces. And this place feels like a hug. And that, my son, I have it on good authority from my son that this is the world's best nap sofa. So when he and my daughter-in-law and my grandsons are here, he'll come in here and stretch out. And this is his favorite nap spot. He'll close all the curtains so it's quiet and dark as a tomb. And that's his jam. And nobody's allowed in here when he's trying to, take his rest. He'll sit here and drink milk and eat homemade cookies. paper whites are something I do every year. Started the paper whites this year earlier than ever. I started them before Halloween, I think. So, and I love the scent of them, and I love having fresh flowers, fresh live stuff, or, stuff cut from the yard year round. We have a big garden during the summer, and we grow a lot of flowers, and so I really love doing that. And I like to sit out here. I can see outside, see what's in bloom. If it starts snowing, it's magical out there. So that's one of my favorites. I light my scented candle, and I put on my my Christmas music, and I take myself away. Home means for me around the holiday season having my family close, having friends in, whether it's just dropping in for a glass of wine or, as I said, getting my book club girls together. It means family and friends and closeness and stopping to really be grateful for all the blessings that this house has brought us. And the fact that this house is a place where my family and friends want to gather. That makes me very happy.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.